Hello and welcome back to the North American SMITE Challenger Circuit. J-Mac and Lermy finally back with it this time. No Kiki for you guys this week. Instead, we got Lermy coming back in to fill in Kiki's shoes. And I mean, we got a great game for you guys tonight. Slaughter Squadron and Hugs and Kisses going at it. I mean, these two teams, though, they're kind of fighting for that upper of the bottom half teams right now. Both of them sitting at 1 and 2, as far as I can remember, onto it. It's going to be a hard fight for them, Lermy.
Yeah, this is a very important week to get in there, too, because we are 1 week away from the end of the phase. So if they can't really make a break for it here, they may not be able to claw their way up to the top. And that's super important, especially in this last phase, I guess, of the season, right? Because we are getting near that world's time. And of course, it's always important to make a mark around this time period. And for sure, these guys definitely can. There are so many members of both of these teams who have been around the scene for a very long time. So for sure, I mean, they've got to really make their mark here.
Yeah, I mean, losing this week could basically spell the end of your career for this phase coming up through. Picks and bans for game number 1 are ready to go. We'll see exactly where these drafts go. I mean, we've been seeing a lot of back and forth amongst the drafts of Slaughter Squadron. We've been seeing a lot of gods on the rise and a lot on the fall, as you've seen here, even in some of the top bans. Sun Wukong has become such a prevalent pick and ban among teams. It just kind of baffles my mind how much it's changed in just one phase.
Yeah, really. I mean, he kind of hasn't even changed that much either. He did get that attack speed slow on the Master's Will just a little bit ago, and honestly, that was the last big thing other than maybe the rise of Soul Eater over in the solo lane, but even still, we're probably not going to see him get banned away here in the beginning. This is more so reserved for those OP gods, like, of course, Yamoja, I think, would definitely be at the top. Persephone's there as well, and I'm honestly expecting to see something like Kuzenbo, maybe a Set. I think those guys are definitely at the top.
Yeah, I mean, Set specifically for Annenster on the side of Winter Dogs is one of the must-ban gods going through. I mean, this guy, every time he gets Set in his hands, I mean, he's getting 10-plus kills per game. So maybe not against Andy. Don't maybe have to worry about it so much. But against Annenster specifically, yeah, you got to take that one away. But once again, we are seeing the Sun Wukong, and the Tsukuyomi has been rising in the ranks a lot recently. Has been a top pick and ban. But Lermy, it's not just because he's a strong jungler. We've seen him played solo, work really well. We saw him play ADC, worked really well. I mean, this guy's flexibility in the SCC is something to be matched.
For sure, but now that we're up to this first pick, Cthulhu is still available, and this is honestly just a classic here. I mean, Cthulhu in the solo lane, what's wrong with that? We've seen people like Yarkor up in the SPL take care of this, and Uzi on this pick. I mean, it's going to be a sight to behold.
And Rom has kind of been the snap pick hunter if Cupid is taken away. And we saw just how much in the last SPL set that this god held that power line for these teams. I mean, he is an unstoppable hunter. And ever since his buffs, he has been on the rise. I think to mention into it, it's unfortunate we only have one set for you guys tonight due to the time constraints with SPL going on for so long. I mean, so many great games today, both of them going full 3-game sets. But back into the picks and bans, Achilles and Nemesis locked in here. And Nemesis just, Lermy, why is Nemesis just not gone away? I figured she would go, what set? ADC? Solo?
Mid?
Solo. Nope.
No.
80, nope.
Mid or ADC, those are the options.
This is the problem we have with this god is I've been watching Andy play at jungle, but there's Nemesis. We saw Final K play him solo. We've seen people play him ADC, and Paul's played him mid. This god has 4 roles and does well in all of them.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait a second. Cyclone played at ADC, Paul played at mid. Like, he's everywhere, dude.
Yeah.
This god is nuts. He's invaded the rank scene, but I'm just going to take one step back here, right? Let's talk about Nemesis for a second, because obviously Set has been the highlight here for us in picks and bans so far, but Nemesis kind of is the classic counter to Cthulhu, right? So they're kind of taking that away, but of course Nemesis, even beyond that, has a lot of really great applications in being able to help shred down, and especially if you're going to be picking up this set in a non-conventional role, it's going to be great to give you that ability to just kind of dive someone and all-in dogpile.
On the flip side, Aphrodite has been locked in. Now, we sometimes see this god ban. We sometimes never see or hear anything from her, but Hugs and Kisses going to lock this one in for Privative in the mid lane. Most likely, I don't think we're going to see anything back in the days of the Shadow Q support Aphrodite like we had. And I think the days of Afro solo are gone beyond us here. Into the bans, Cerberus and Sobek alongside Xingqian and Erlong. Two really strong bans on the side of Hugs and Kisses just because they locked in that Afro.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of dive on both sides are being taken away here, and there's not a whole lot of options remaining in terms of those really aggressive supports. I mean, they've basically taken away, what, a total of possibly 6 supports this entire pick and ban phase. But Ganesh is probably the next thing up there that you could go for. So I like the selection here from Hugs and Kisses, because Slaughter Squadron also need to pick up a support for themselves, right? Assuming this isn't a set support, which, I mean, we haven't seen yet, so it could complete the all rolled trifecta or what have you of the set dominance in this meta. But even still, probably going to see a Guardian or even a Warrior. I could see maybe a Horus support fitting in here really nice just to double up on the aggression.
Yeah, I mean, in the words of Mifflin last time Hugs and Kiss players, put some respect on Oceans with this Ganesh. I mean, Oceans has had his SPL debut. He's played 3 roles now at a competitive level, now swapping over into the support role. And his Ganesh play last time that he brought it out was really, really strong. So I'm interested to see how Hugs and Kisses are going to go up into this lineup. But Slaughter Squadron has been locking in another so dominant pick up into the SPL scene. Raw. I mean, Lermy, we have seen the laser chicken so much recently.
Oh, I mean, I hate you,
I just saw all of the happiness just fade away from your eyes there for a moment. Now I know your opinion onto the Ymir. We'll get back to him, but I mean this Raw pick from Slaughter Squadron, it feels like there is a lot of safety and setup for him.
Absolutely. You've got the Cthulhu to be able to just run someone down. The knockup is a great way to just set someone up for that. But other than that, I'm kind of missing out on a lot of that hard CC, right? Set's got slows. Nemesis has slows. Ymir has a wall. That's kind of it, right? Other than that.
On to the Kamazot's the final god locked in, and with the final draft being in, game 1 underway, Slaughter Squadron versus Hugs and Kisses. Remember, if you missed out onto, I mean, these two teams are 4th and 5th seeds respectively at the moment, both sitting 1 and 2. The winner of this game could very well send the other one packing with no chance back into the upper half of the SEC, and it could take away their potential finals and worlds runs. Oceans has beads very early on, and with the 5-man run-up by Slaughter Squadron will force that relic out immediately.
That's a really good pick there. I love the grouping here from Slaughter Squadron because, honestly, you kind of have to try and be aggressive with this comp. Your level 1 right now is absolutely nuts. You've got so many slows, right, between all of the abilities out of Benny and Mineral, and considering that the rest of the squad was there, you know, maybe someone just gets slowed into oblivion and taken out right there. But forcing the beats is going to be good because now that might give the option for, again, more early aggression from this duo lane.
Well, we've been seeing a lot of the quote-unquote selfish relic pickups recently by supports, especially things like beads and Aegis when you're going up against, you know, gods like Poseidon. I mean, honestly, I'm kind of down for, you know, everybody wants your support to have the shells, the blinks, and all those kinds of things, but when you don't have CC immunity and you get caught out as a Ganesh, I mean, that's kind of game over for you. So I don't really mind this pickup by Ocean.
I think it is good. I gotta agree with you there because the little CC that Slaughter Squadron do have can be very, very destructive up against a Ganesh. But again, Ganesh actually is a very solid matchup in this duo lane because even if Mineral does throw down the wall, Ocean can just dash right through it. That's the ability of the Elephant to be able to go through any player-made wall. Remove obstacles, truly. What obstacle is in his way when he can press that button?
Well, into the dual lane, I expected this is where the primary aggression was going to be. When you got an assassin here, especially one with a warrior's blessing, is a little bit tankier, and he wants to fight you more often. Benny Q is no stranger to this god. He is one of the few at the amateur level who is playing this god in the dual lane. But Kirby making that level 2 rotation over to the dual lane, might be looking to get something here. Does have a blink available, but he's waiting patiently, not going in. I'm not sure if he's been spotted out yet. I don't see any wards on this side, so he might be able to get this if he steps forward, but he's been here for a little too long. He's starting to lose out on this farm.
Oh, they've definitely seen him. They absolutely for sure have seen his nameplate come up through the wall there, and they're just kind of hanging out trying to see if he actually will get aggressive, because I feel like even if they do, there's no way they can get out, but they're actually going for it.
Well, it's gonna be a little too late on the freeze from Mineral, and all that patience finally pays off for the jungler. Kirmi gonna get first blood for hugs and kisses. And I thought he was, I'm sitting here like, you're sitting here for a long, long time, but eventually able to get that one. And what better guy to get it onto than Ymir? Put this support behind early.
I mean, you have to, right? If you don't punish this Ymir, that's kind of the win condition, is if this Ymir gets ahead early, then he's a monster. But that's the thing. You shut down the Ymir once, and it makes it so much easier to do it a second time, a third time. So if Mineral doesn't, get his feet back under his shoes, I think he's going to have a little bit of problems here, especially up against people that can lock him down so well like this Ganesh can.
With that, Kirmi was able to go back to base, get his boots 2 on very early. Able to get that little bit of a lead thanks to that first blood bounty, and he'll continue his pressure into the jungle, making sure that he can keep pace, at least farm-wise, with Fun Crush, but more importantly, keeping that dual lane up and ahead. I mean, this is a very important dual lane to keep ahead and to keep behind for the enemy team, like we were talking about. Ymir is a very, I think the best word is a feast or famine god. He's either going to feed your team and get so much going for them, or he's going to potentially cause the death, but he's going to be the famine of your squad. Feeds expended from the mid lane primitive on that Aphrodite. Had to use those. One level 5 yet, and that snipe from Neu already starting to hurt.
Yeah, a little scary there for the Aphrodite, but Crib did react accordingly, although, coming from a spectator view, he probably didn't have to use them there. But, better safe than sorry, especially on another Feast or Famine god. Aphrodite's kind of been all over the place up in the SPL region. I think we've seen Paul try it a couple of times with no success, and then, of course, Dardes whips it out, and then you just have to auto-ban it up against him. So, in reality, this character can be very good, especially in keeping someone alive when they're getting dove on. So honestly, I'm expecting this Aphrodite to be linked to someone on the back line to try and just save their life consistently through every single dive that Slaughter Squadron goes for.
2 men freeze in the mid lane onto Kirmi and Oceans. Luckily that for them, they don't have to expend any relics because there was no major follow-up. Neu snipe still on cooldown. And Lermy, I'm looking through too, and one thing I'm not seeing immediately out of Neu that we've seen out of almost every Raw is he's not rushing into Doom Orb.
Kind of surprising, honestly. I personally think that Doom Orb is such a great item, especially on a character like Ra, who basically gets a free boots from his passive, but hold this thought real quick, as we're seeing a very aggressive grouping up on this blue buff.
3 versus 4, the Pillars and Descent into Madness have both been dropped through, but unfortunately for Hugs and Kisses, they're on the lower end of it. Neu snipe just off the mark. Kirmi and Oceans make it out, but I'm not going to say the same for Chronic as he misses the dash or the ultimate with that dash, but he still managed to get the double dash and a couple swings in to take down Neu before he trades his life. And in a situation where Chronic shouldn't have gotten anything, he actually comes up net even.
I mean, you think so, right? But they're also losing Totem of Ku here. They've lost the blue buff, so there is just a little more here going in the favor of Slaughter Squadron. Not to mention that 3 players, even besides the one that got the kill, were able to get the assist on that as well. So, honestly, overall, it kind of is a little back and forth there. I think that this is definitely where you should be picking the fight, but on the other side, Benny-Q is picking the wrong fight.
Then he's gonna use the Kingslayer, but he's stuck in the middle of 3. The healing is keeping him alive through all of it. Such insane sustain out of the set. His mid laner is here to provide a little bit more for it. Oceans dashes in aggressively. Oceans is still, or Benny is still swinging in onto Oceans. He's gonna force one into the sky, gets hit by the Lovebirds, and that might be the end of it. A wall from Mineral is off the mark. He has to instantly drop it down. Still chasing it is Neu. Doesn't have that snipe just yet. Dives in, has the ult, slams it in. Benny with the skewer through the wall manages to find the cleanup kill. 2 for Benny when he should have been dead to rights.
This is why set is so good. I mean, I just genuinely do not have words. There were 3 people on him. He pops the ultimate, Rom makes the rotation, and he still gets out alive. Just look at the absurd number of clones there in the replay, and oh my gosh, what happened in solo there? Ozzy gets the kill onto Chronic, thanks to a nice rotation there from Fun Crush, but man, I genuinely no words there for that set play.
I mean, how many spawns did he have on the ground at that point? I must have counted 8 or 9 of them at that moment. I mean, this is why we've seen so much set recently. People kind of forgot how good spawns were, especially when you have 8 or 9 of them when you pop that Kingslayer. In the midst of 3 people, he managed to come up huge for against 2 kills after diving that tower as well, along with his mid and his support. Forcing out the ult of Uzi as he tries to go for another blue buff invade. It looks like he was unsuccessful in stealing that one away. So unfortunately for Uzi, he's got to walk away ultless for the time being.
Well, he doesn't really lose anything, right? The ult will be back up, and of course the blue buff will be up again for some stealing if he so chooses, but that time was just by himself, and a nice wall there for Mineral does actually isolate out Privative, and he actually is going to pop the ultimate there, which is, again, kind of confusing. It feels like Privative is just popping things a little bit too early every single time. A little scared, it seems, in this matchup.
A little quick on the trigger finger. Mineral moving forward is going to drop the wall and immediately pull it away. As Oceans and Kirby were on the wrong side of it, at least from their perspective, or at least from Mineral's perspective onto it. For them, they were more than happy avoiding that wall. But Nayu level 9 now on the rod, despite the early fall, still has a bit of a farm lead over Privative, thanks to the amount of distraction that BennyQ had onto them. Kept him out of lane for a good amount of time. Now Mineral standing on the ward. They know you're there, buddy, and there's not much you're going to be able to do. You got 3 of them staring back at you, and no ult from Uzi could be a difficult fight from them. That Cthulhu ultimate is such a massive dissuader in team fights. The wall comes down, forces the leap out of Kirmi, and that will be enough for them to disengage.
Very quick reaction there from Kirmi to run away. I feel like, they didn't really know exactly where Fun Crush was, so they didn't want to commit to that blue if they weren't entirely sure. But then I guess the question is, why even stay there at all? He'll come back eventually, right? And that's why you see Mineral just kind of standing there. So a little bit of wasted time there from Hugs and Kisses. I wish they would have committed to something there. They definitely could have fought, considering Oceans did have the pillars available. So I kind of wish they did.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a lot of standing around early. We saw Kirby do it very early on in the game. Now, he managed to get a kill off of it and was kind of leeching that dual lane farm some. Still comes out kind of positive for him, but yeah, in that last little engagement, he knows that somebody is there. Mineral didn't just walk into the blue buff. He didn't just walk into solo lane. Like, if he's just standing there at a pillar, you got to know that he knows you're there. Kind of a situation like, I know that you know that we know we're here kind of thing. So at that point, you just got to walk away. You just got to go back to farming.
Renjaru definitely knows someone's around the bend because he was spotted out there by Oceans, but Benny's once again committing to this invade. Level 12 at less than 10 minutes. Another fight's gonna break out.
Doesn't even manage to get to the sky in time. Nayu finds him with the beam, and that'll be the end of the jungler's life. Finally putting the first death onto him, and that'll lead to a red buff invade and a rotation from Uzi onto the Cthulhu, pushing Privative under tower. Level 9 on the Afro, and Solo and Mana, nothing that they can do to move in. That's gonna spell a free Gold Fury inside of Slaughter Squadron because nobody can contest it.
This match has been crazy so far. We're 10 minutes in, and the gold leads, what, 4K? I mean, just check out that experience gap as well. 5,500. And if we go back to the table there, you can just see roll to roll. Like, look at those numbers. 13 on Benny versus the 10 on Renjar. We've got 11 over here for Nayu up against the 10 on Priv. If this goes the way it currently is, I'm going to be so concerned for these team fights because Benny is just getting huge.
I mean, Benny is stealing purple buffs consistently. He's stealing back camps. He's just fighting more often than anything, and that's what you want out of this set. He excels in the early game boxing when anti-heal is not a thing. Now that anti-heal is up, he's not going to be as crazy, but he's already built a huge lead. He's got Transcendence online. He's got his boots going in towards what I imagine is probably going to be a Crusher for more attack speed, though he's got so many options available. I mean, look at his XP per minute. He is 70 XP a minute over the solo laner.
That's so crazy, just coming to look at it, right? But again, like you said, it's all about getting that anti-heal online early. And honestly, the Slaughter Squadron have also got to be getting anti-heal of their own because this Aphrodite is already at 40% plus cooldown, so she's going to be healing basically non-stop. So as long as both sides are aware of that, and of course they are, because you can already see Brawler's Beatstick coming out, Divine Ruin there for Neu as well, so everybody is aware that healing is a big deal this game.
And I wouldn't be surprised to see either the support or the solo pick up maybe a Contagion or a Pestilence, and even a Curse Donk is a possibility. Renjaru blocked off by the wall. There's 3 people chasing him down, or 3 people coming to rotate over, make that the full team of hugs and kisses, trying to track him down versus the 4. Mineral taking a lot of poke, bad out of health, expended as well as the Dharmic Pillars. They're going to take a lot to just drop down just 1. Ymir, Benny manages to live out through the ultimate out of the Hunter. He's going to throw a couple of spawns back over towards hugs and kisses with the 5-man rotation. They're not going to get anything else off of this kill. They did all of that work for 1 kill?
Gold Fury is down, so I'm surprised they actually committed the full rotation there. Chronic coming over as well as Uzi a little bit later on the rotation, but honestly, it's not that big of a deal, right? Because Uzi's going to head back to lane. He'll get there slightly earlier than Chronic, and if he can just get 1 or 2 taps on that tower, then that's the solo lane basically said and done.
It looks like that's exactly where he's going on the Cthulhu, but the reason I want to highlight is they did all that to kill 1 god, all that to kill the support. They didn't get the tower, there was no Fury, they didn't rotate towards Pyro, so why commit all 5 players if that's all you're going to get? Sure, they probably wanted Benny Q too, but I mean, what were they going to gain from getting just those 2 kills?
I mean, I'm sure they were hoping there was some kind of buff available, right? They were looking for a purple, looking for a red. They were all kind of posturing, deciding if they really wanted to keep committing to the engagement. But with Uzi on the way, I think it actually was a smart call there to say, okay, we got our kill. Let's just get out of here, go back to lane, settle it down one more time. But hold that thought, look up where he left. Another solo is about to happen.
Oh, Benny diving the tower. I mean, this is what happens when you have a 3-level lead, is you can just make these kinds of dives. It is the Jotun's Rat that he picks up for extra cooldowns, to where he can just keep doing this more and more often, get that Kingslayer on, and with rotation from Neu, he's able to heal right back up thanks to the beam out of the Raw, but a fight over by the red buff snipe from Neu goes through. Ocean's on full retreat. Bone Crush is still up here trying to steal a camp away. Dharmic Pillars drops down. Oceans gets the ultimate saving from Privative, but it's not going to be enough because Uzi has the shot over the wall to take that one down. 2 more kills on the board for Slaughter Squadron. And unfortunately, so far we haven't been able to see much out of this Aphrodite just yet. Uzi still diving in, putting in some damage. Sustain from the mid laners, keeping Uzi tapped off in health. Chronic gonna eat a little bit of poke there. Uzi as well, as he's still diving into that tower. Kirmi's rotated over, but Mineral is coming from under the tower. Gets a freeze on the Privet with no ultimate. That's the end of the life for the mid laner. Uzi picks up 1. Mineral with the charge shuffle takes down another one, and that's 2 more kills. Make that 4 and a tower on the board. And then gosh, look, Benny diving the tier 2 tower.
King Slayer. That's it. That's all I had to say.
I mean, that's all you need. He is not just the Kingslayer, he's the Team Slayer at this point. Benny's got 4 kills on the board out of this dual lane set, and it doesn't look like he has any shot of slowing down.
I mean, not at all, right? With the amount of cooldown that he has, not to mention that Neu is there to keep him constantly topped off, and Uzi is there to also peel out if need be. I mean, what else could a set really want? Level 17 at not even 16 minutes, and again, another Gold Fury down, and that will be an Oni Fury as well, so the lanes are going to get pushed up. They can start to focus on pushing those right side objectives, maybe even go for more towers, especially if they're able to just take down that Fire Giant, and normally, Fire Giant doesn't happen at this point in the game. But considering what's happening right now, the fact that Slaughter Squadron have a 10k lead, honestly, go for it. Go for it. You can do it.
All right, I've got to retract my statement I made back in Picks and Bans, where if you're just going up against Andy ban the set, I think Benny has now cemented that he needs a set ban against him. But probably just in general, I think Set might be a god that we just need to see banned away from these SCC teams. I mean, he is popping off every single time that we've seen him.
Absolutely. I 3,000% agree with you. Not 100, 3,000. That's how confident I am that this character is absolutely nuts when in the right hands. And like you said, Benny Q has cemented himself as one of those players that can do it. And look at the lead that he's been able to grant his team. This play so far from the ADC on Slaughter Squadron has been insane. And not to mention how aggressive he's being right now.
Is team really going to do it again? The rest of the team is doing Fire Giant. Meanwhile, Benny Q is dealing with 2 on this side. He's got enough. The skewers are going to be enough with the spawns to take down 1. He'll trade out with Kirmi, but that's set up for the rest of the team. He sent 3 people, forced 3 players to the other side of the map to set up for this Fire Giant. Nayu's got the beam to take down the Fire Giant. Chronic, unfortunately, might not have a path out of here. He's able to dash away for the time, but Fun Crush will have his dashes, has anything he'll need available to dive in. He's going to go right in, one slice of dice, will take down the solo laner, and with Fire Giant and a couple of kills extra on the board, Slaughter Squadron are starting to really push that lead. 11,000 gold in their favor, and I can't even imagine what the experience gap is with a 5-level difference in those hunters or in those dual lane carries. 15,000 XP. That's a rough one to fight back into.
I mean, this doesn't happen, right? This kind of a lead just like doesn't happen from 2 teams that are in a very similar standing in the SCC. I mean, this has been crazy play so far from not only Benny, but I feel the whole side of Slaughter Squadron has really just done an amazing job capitalizing on every single one of their strengths as a comp, and then also capitalizing on the weaknesses of Hugs and Kisses. And even though Benny did take a spill and he might be in danger here again, okay, I mean, that kind of sucked for him, but at the same time, you know, they're trying to find their picks. That was really the first good play that I feel Hugs and Kisses have really been able to do. They grouped up as 4 on this left-hand side to take down the hard carry.
And the big benefit that they do have is there is now 80% anti-heal to deal with this set between the 2 who dove on him. Kirby and Privative kind of pincered him there, and there was no sustain available for Benny. So in that situation, that's their best bet, is throw those 2 gods onto Benny, and he's got nothing to do. But unfortunately, they put all that commit onto him on that left-hand side. They all backed away, so 3-2 tower will fall down left. They traded for a tier 1 in solo, but they don't really care about that. 4 pushing in, or make it just 3. Fun Crush gonna go over towards the back camp, and with that, they decide not to go into the Phoenix. But even with this large lead disparity, there is still fight for Hugs and Kisses here. I mean, Fun Crush gonna dive in with the ultimate, gonna get Mez out by the Ohm. Ultimate out of Privative and the Dharmic Pillars. Now Mineral's caught in the midst of the Dharmic Pillars. He avoids the dash, but that's 2 big ultimates burned by Slaughter Squadron.
I'm sorry, I just had to laugh there because Ozzy is just taller than the back camp walls, and there's no way they didn't see him over that wall, and the ward just kind of cemented the fact that they knew they were there, and that actually was a lot burned there by Slaughter Squadron to try and get up in there and force something, right? But I mean, at the same time, they don't really have to. They've got a solid amount of time left on this Fire Giant, but in reality, they can just safely push through this tower and not really have to worry about it. But at the same time, they've got to decide if they really want to capitalize on the remaining part of this fire and go for a Phoenix, or if they're going to stop the split push, which in all actuality, Ozzy using the TP here is exactly what Hugs and Kisses were hoping for.
Yeah, they're able to stop Renjaru from taking that tier 1 tower, and Ozzy could very well probably just solo Renjaru. Renjaru's going for the fight, but into the descent of the madness, Ozzy goes. Shell pop just to try to keep Renjaru alive for as long as possible. Ozzy's still chasing him down, throws out the knockup, but it's not going to connect. Instead, he turns the sights to Kirmi, who's doing, let's be honest, hardly any damage to Ozzy. Ozzy's at half. He'll come out of the descent of the madness, drop the Mire down, and he holds off 2 players just by himself. Level 19 on this Cthulhu, nearly 5 items fully online, and that sets up for Primal Fury. I mean, this has been the name of the game for Slaughter Squadron. Maybe we didn't get a kill, or maybe we did, but we forced everybody else from Hugs and Kisses back, and we get something off of it. Capitalizing on the kills has been the name of the game for Slaughter this time around.
And they really have been doing it quite well, but this actually might be a little bit too aggressive here from Fun Crush. He is just kind of jumping into 4 people there, able to get the double dash off successfully, but that was just really lucky there for the jungler of Slaughter Squadron. If he had been paying even just a fraction less attention there, he probably was dead. And, they've got to be, eventually looking to end this game, right? So if they're making plays like that, not super paying attention, just kind of riding the wave of this humongous lead that they have, it's going to be a little bit harder for them to finish off this game. They've got to keep their composure and push it through to the end.
I mean, as we start pushing towards now with only Phoenixes left standing for hugs and kisses, they've got a tall task for defense. I mean, Aphrodite is not what I would call a good siege defense mage more than anything, but it is her sustain that she provides in that ultimate enough to keep Slaughter Squadron backed away on these Phoenixes. I mean, what is it for hugs and kisses that's going to win them these Phoenix fights?
They've really got to play around these pillars very well, and especially with this Rom, he's going to start getting online soon enough, right? He's got the Berserkers, he's got the Chinsai all ready to go, but he needs to get to that level 20 mark so he can start doing the same amount of damage that someone like this set is going to be doing in these fights. I think really we have to look at the support and the ADC to really rely on these defenses because they're the ones who are going to be swinging. Afro is mostly there to keep people alive, and of course Camazotz is there to be the distraction. But at the end of the day, the damage has to be coming from the ADC.
It's funny you mention a Berserker Shield. We don't normally see this item picked up this early on the hunt. I mean, is it just because of Benny Q that he's been forced into this item this early?
Honestly, yes. It's that and the dive coming out from the Nemesis as well, because if she is going to pop the ultimate on him, because, as I said earlier, he's kind of the last hope, really, for hugs and kisses on these defenses. He's got to have some way to stay in this, and if he's able to get that extra bit of lifesteal or whatever it is coming from those extra autos that he'll be able to sling out once the Berserker Shield passive is up, then by all means it was a useful pickup, and it especially is helpful when this Aphrodite is going to be able to keep you in that 30% range that the passive will activate in and not actually be in as much danger as you might normally think so, because she's got the ultimate, she's got the healing, the peel. I mean, that's really what you want to be seeing, and that's why the kiss is on the Rom.
Minions have been taken down. Slaughter Squadron still looking to push into this Phoenix, potentially looking for a 4-1. Fun Crush kind of sitting on the edge, not making a commitment to that mid lane just yet. Now he'll rotate through. Uzi pushing in with the Mire. Primitive's going to throw out Lovebirds for a little bit of sustain and to clear out the minions more than anything else. All 5 now for Slaughter Squadron. Pushing in, dive in from Uzi. He's going to get stunned out into the center of the madness. Big snipe out of Ney. He's going to put Rinjaru under half health. That's going to allow Uzi to keep pushing forward. Left side Phoenix is down. He has to get out of the ultimate quickly enough, though. Drops the Mire, and that's going to be enough. He's going to kill into Oceans. Meanwhile, Benny dives into the backline. Wall at a mineral. Cuts off the path for Chronic. And Benny, with what seems like the world and the army of spawns, is able to take down the solo laner. It's 5 versus 2 to defend against the Titan. Benny's getting low, throws up the spawn. Titan is taking him down. Big wall out of the support might have just kept him alive. The Titan under siege, under half health. I'm not sure if they have the full commit onto it. Fun Crush will throw it out. Benny's still throwing the spawns, but Rib is not enough defense. Kimmy's able to get 1, but not enough to save the Titan. Slaughter Squadron, in a commanding game number 1, are able to take the victory.
Ban set next game. Really, I mean, that was an insane performance from Benny Q. And again, we don't really see this character showing up in ADC all that often. He's more so a jungle, even leading solo lane type character. But the fact of the matter is that Set is just so good in the meta right now that you could honestly throw him anywhere and he'd still pop off. But clearly, I mean, just look at that slash line. 8, 2, and 4 on the ADC set. Just absolutely farmed this game. So again, coming into game number 2, they've just got to take that away.
Yeah, they've either got to grab it for themselves or, in my opinion, just outright ban it. But by banning it away, that means that they're losing out on potential picks themselves. I mean, my big thing onto it is you don't give them Set, you don't give them Ra and Cthulhu and Nemesis along with them. I mean, we kind of scratched our head at the Ymir, like, Ymir, he's, it was a pick, but I mean, it worked out so well for him. But when you give them those 4 gods in the picks and bans, I mean, you can pick whatever you want for support at that point.
Yeah, really. And I mean, it did work out pretty well, actually, because Mineral actually is a very solid Ymir player. You could see time and time again that he knew exactly when and where to place those walls to really block off a lot of the enemy squad. And it worked out, especially because neither of the carries can get through those walls. And honestly, good on him to be able to have the confidence in that pick there. But coming into game number 2, I think really Hugs and Kisses have to go back to the drawing board here, because if they don't and they run a similar comp to game number 1, I can honestly just see them get stomped again. And of course, we want these to be as competitive as possible, and these are great players too. So I hope they have a backup plan.
Yeah, they're definitely going to need a backup plan going into game number 2. We're going to take it to a quick break and see if they can pull out plan B to see what they can do up against Slaughter Squadron. Well, Lermy, I think you said it best at the end of game number 1, which was ban Set. I think that's the best way to go through it. If they're not going to pick Set for themselves as a first pick, I think he's got to be taken away, because BenEQ has shown that he has a strong proficiency with this god and is not afraid to bring it out into the duo lane. And as we get ready to go here into picks and bans for game number 2, I think that's where all of our focus is going to be. You and I, we're going to be paying attention to these bans more than anything. And I think that Hugs and Kisses need to make that adjustment, especially with them being second pick. They can't let this through.
Yeah, they have to auto ban it, right? Because they're second pick, they just can't let it through. Straight up, they will first pick it, because they know that if they don't, then it's going straight over to Hugs and Kisses. And honestly, Slaughter Squadron are just cool to coast. They can do whatever they really want to here in the picks and bans, but honestly, I'm down for just a run back of last game's bans. Aside from that set for Hugs and Kisses, Yamoja, of course, kind of good. I would say just a little bit, and Persephone also moderately pretty okay.
Yeah, I mean, the bans are pretty standard throughout the SCC. More often than not, they kind of mirror what you see in the SPL. Sun Wukong has been very heavy picks and bans, especially among the SCC. Set. There it is on the other side.
Boys,
we can live happy knowing that Hugs and Kisses have made the adjustment to it. But this does mean that they're going to leave other things available. Last game we saw the Cthulhu, the Kuzenbo banned away this time. If they take the Cthulhu away, that leaves so many options still available. I mean, right now there are so many dominant gods in the meta that you just can't ban everything out. They are going to take the Cthulhu, recognizing that Uzi was also a problem for him last game.
Gotta agree with you there. Uzi and Cthulhu, that's just kind of a match made in heaven. And before it used to be Nike RDO, but now the Cthulhu is in the game. Uzi has been one of the top performers on that character, but we've got a first pick here, and honestly, it could go in a lot of different directions. But if I'm Slaughter Squadron, I might just insta-lock the Nemesis here because Fun Crush had a pretty solid game on it as well, and there it is.
And not just that, I mean, with Cupid not banned out this time around, that means that Slaughter Squadron gets one or the other by picking up the Nemesis. They're going to let Hugs and Kisses pick their poison. The Erlong Shen banned away in Phase 2 last time in the picks and bans. Now first picked by Hugs and Kisses. We've been seeing a lot of Erlong Shen on the rise recently. I mean, with his flexibility, I wouldn't be surprised if they decided to kind of keep this one as a, we don't know where he's going yet. We're kind of see where he lands out. But jungle has kind of been the more often than not for this god.
Yeah, I mean, it's okay in support. I don't love it in support in comparison to jungle because, I mean, even then, we've seen people like Cherio pop off with it. Sino's had a couple of outings where he's been nuts, but here's the new guy on the block, Tsukiyomi, getting locked in here. And considering there's already a Nemesis on the board, I imagine this is going to go up against the Amaterasu in the solo lane, and that's an interesting matchup, honestly, because I think it honestly favors the Amaterasu. The poke from Tsukiyomi is just going to get healed out for the most part.
Well, with the Cerberus locked in, it's not 100% exactly where this god is going to go. Maybe Benny will do a switch up and throw him back in ADC. With the Nemesis locked in, I doubt it's going to go into the jungle. So there's still potential and still some flexibility with this draft with that Tsukiyomi Cerberus. Merlin, though, no flexibility onto him, at least not anymore, probably.
Oh,
maybe a season back, I would say there's still that chance, but most likely this Merlin going to be going into the mid lane, get that one into the hands of Privative, who just couldn't get anything out of that Aphrodite last game.
Yeah, I wasn't a big fan of the Aphrodite selection in mid. I understood why they went for it, but just wasn't at the level that it needed to be to really work into their composition. So I love this pick from here, and I also love the ban away of the Ra. Neu was just totally accurate the last game with those snipes. I don't think I even saw him really miss one. Just able to set up on a dime, really. Mineral and comms is like, okay, I'm gonna blink freeze, and then instantly Neu knows they're gonna be at this point at this time exactly, and then I'm gonna press the force button 3 milliseconds beforehand, and it's gonna work out. So taking away that character from as skilled a player as Neu, good ideas, and especially with Discordia there as well, both solid bans.
Yeah, I mean, Neo has had a great performance on the Discordia and the pass and the Raw last game, so great bans by Hugs and Kisses. I'm curious as to why Slaughter Squadron banned the Cupid when the Hunter hasn't been locked in on Hugs and Kisses, but they're not going to even worry about their Hunter, so that, to me, leads a potential free ROM on the board, or maybe they just don't even care about the ROM, and they are going to potentially throw the Tsukiyomi into ADC. Agni locked in for the mid lane of Slaughter Squadron. I love this mage going up against the Merlin. He's got a lot of safety with it. And with this final ban, we'll get to see exactly where those other two picks are going to be going. Okay, I'm still not sure. Tsukiyomi, I can say, is going to be going ADC. Yeah. But the Cerberus Odin, I'm probably leading that Odin over a bit more towards the support role.
I've got to disagree with you there because Uzi is known for the Odin. I said like all of his other comfort picks earlier, but Odin is another character that Uzi really loves to play, even dating back to his Xbox days, right? That was kind of the key game plan there. And Apollo over here in the ADC role for Hugs and Kisses. This is a character that we have not seen in a very long time, but I mean, a recent buff might have just done it to him. That speed up on the dash might just be good enough to get him back in the meta.
Yeah, I mean, we saw Apollo for literally none of this entire season, as far as I'm concerned, or as far as I know, onto it. Even at the top end of play, nobody was picking him in SPL, and then we've seen him one time here and one time there in the SEC. Now bring him back out here. Game number 2, Slaughter Squadron and Hugs and Kisses. Hugs and Kisses, they've got an interesting pick with this Apollo to see if they can get themselves a win for it. But Slaughter Squadron, I mean, they've got a pretty devastating team for themselves.
Gotta agree with you there. It's going to be all down to how they play in this early game, really, because honestly, either of these squads could pop off come late.
Game number 2 underway for Slaughter Squadron and Hugs and Kisses. We'll see where these gods go, and it will be the Odin into the solo lane for Uzi. I mean, if it wasn't Uzi, I guess maybe I was thinking more towards Gamma, who's kind of the support Odin player more than anything, but will be Mineral onto the Cerberus, and Cerberus Tsukiyomi seems kind of like a dangerous dual lane to go up against.
Yeah, once again, Mineral and BennyQ going for this super hyper omega aggressive dual lane that they seem to love to go for. But on the other side, Oceans and Renjaru have a lot of self-peel. I mean, Oceans, of course, has the pluck, and thank goodness Tsukiyomi is not knock-up immune anymore, so you can cancel him out of the second ability there. So, I mean, it honestly works out really great, too, because Sobek is just a great pick overall, kind of like Kuzenbo works in the meta. Those supports that can just jump on people, put them out of position, those are the ones you love to be going for right now, and Sobek definitely at the top.
Yeah, displacement has kind of been the name of the game recently. That's why Hercules has been so prominent support. That's why Sobek has been seeing a rise out of solo lane and back into his old traditional support role, just because early displacement in dual lane is so key to catching these hunters out, especially if you're going to be playing these assassin ADCs who don't have quite the mobility that even some of the hunters will have. They don't get taken to about half, but they have the lane advantage. They have the minion push over Renjaru and Oceans into the dual lane, still keeping them pushed back.
Tsukiyomi does have pretty solid clear with that shuriken going through the whole wave, but actually on the other side, they're the ones to hit level 2 first, and there are the beads from Benny actually, but the pluck is still gonna be good.
Gonna throw down the caltrops now, slow him down just a little bit. Oceans will have to walk back. Big stun out of Mineral will make sure that Renjaru can't continue the aggression forward. But Benny kind of burning those beads a little bit early, immediately blinked in by Oceans. I assumed the beads were used almost immediately, thinking the pluck was coming right after, but Ocean's able to bait those out.
I'm surprised that Ocean hasn't been blocking these shurikens, and I know that, of course, getting hit with a shuriken does kind of suck, because if you're close enough to Benny, at that time, he gets a practical cooldown reset on it, but at the same time, you're stopping really any of the clear that they have, so if Sobek's able to do that, sustain up on the wave a little bit, honestly, that might be the better option for them here, but honestly, with what they've been doing so far, it's been a relatively good look, and unfortunately for Kirmi, he's kind of just going on a wild goose chase, as there's no back camps there, so perhaps back to dual lane for a nice little gank.
No back camps, no red buff, no purple buff, and no alpha harpy available. So all Kirmi can do is go for a rotation here. And with the less than mobile Tsukiyomi, he's going to get pinned in place and locked down with the knockup from the turtle. Kirmi able to get first blood onto the dual lane carry this time around as Benny takes the spill.
Fun Crush, though, is going to try to respond here by stealing away the blue buff from this Amaterasu, and obviously Chronic knows, because just placing the ward down there means that they are going to be totally aware this is happening, but Kirmi is not in range, and with Uzi's big damage on the bird bomb, I don't think that Chronic could even secure that if he wanted to, so he's going to walk out of there with the blue buff, and Chronic's just going to be sad.
Yeah, unfortunately for Chronic, he is just an Amaterasu, so you get to see an Odin Bird Bomb, probably one of the better 1-2 combos in the early stages of the game, and then you have a Nemesis to boot with it. I mean, you're really going to have to point your numbers there to try and get that steal away from them. So Chronic will lose out on that blue buff for now. Meanwhile, into the mid lane, Neu sits back under the tower. A little bit of aggression from Primitive pushes him back.
BennyQ, though, doing his best to poke out Renjaru, but they're both pretty even here in terms of health. But honestly, I'm kind of surprised that this Tsukiyomi isn't going for any kind of sustain, instead probably opting into the Transcendence here first overall. And of course, Benny does have a very slight bit of sustain up in the passive, but here comes Kirmi once again. creeping around this backside, and Benny has no idea.
He doesn't have his beads for another second, gets the mez into the turtle. Benny's not going to be able to continue the fight, and with Oceans cutting off his only potential escape route, that's another death onto the assassin. Hugs and Kisses are very aware of what the problem was last game, and they are working their best to keep it shut down.
Ocean's looking around in the jungle, placing a very deep ward there, trying to look out for any pathing. I'd imagine they want to actually set up here for a red buff invade, considering how behind they've been able to put BennyQ. And I mean, especially because both those kills went onto Kirmi, he's going to be able to pop off come the next couple of fights, especially because this level 5 threshold has been reached. Ultimates are available almost entirely across the board. Only people missing out on those for now are the supports, but by the time that next red's up, that certainly could change.
Neo and Fun Crush just going to farm up into the mid lane. This Agni's going to take some time before he really comes online. So those bombs will start swinging once late game comes around. 400 or 500 damage a piece. And I mean, you get one of those with a stun, and you might as well kiss the carry goodbye on the other team. And I've been one of the few to kind of preach the praises of Agni, but I'll stand and die on the hill if I have to with it. But I mean, it does take some time before Nayu's really able to come online. It's not like a quick raw snipe that's going to hit you for 400 immediately in the early game. It's going to take time for Nayu to get online.
Even still, he does have 3 free bombs available whenever he does desire them, so at this point, you know, he has some pretty solid secure should he choose to, but check this left lane one more time and surprise me with this rotation yet again.
Well, Benny's going to go in aggressively with the ultimate. The Meza is going to be enough just to keep him alive for the time being. Benny can't find the last swing with his shot. He's going to fall down to the lurking in the waters. Oceans claims the kill onto Benny. Renjaru, the protections from the Mez, I think, are the only thing that kept him alive.
Yeah, honestly, that was such a good mez there from him, and normally you're like, oh, why are you mezzing right there? But it does give you protections whenever you pop that ability, and oh goodness, if Benny had been able to hit even one shot more, one more auto, that might have been it, but trapped in the cage now is Chronic, and this is just the kill here.
Oh, dash by Fun Crush to avoid the stun. Perfect play out of him. They're able to finally put Slaughter Squadron on the board with that, but I mean, it's just the solo lane Alma. I mean, she's not one to win out in the early game, but I mean, that's the power that the cage provides. I mean, I imagine that we're going to start seeing a Phantom come late game from one of these two frontliners.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of have to, right? 4 people get stuck in the cage here from this Odin, and that's probably why, as you said, to even pick it up in the first place, because, you know, for the most part, the cage is kind of been rendered a little weak in the recent times because Phantom is just so easy to pick up, and especially when a team is all grouped around it, you're good to go. But speaking of good to go, it seems like Hugs and Kisses are raring on this Gold Fury, and they want to try it.
And they don't have any ult to try and steal this one away. Hugs and Kisses will grab it. I'm more Benny and Fun Crush try and make amends onto it. BennyQ with the ultimate will dive in onto Oceans, but he's got no backup and not enough damage. Benny with his 4th death of the game. I mean, this is the opposite of what we saw last game. By this point, he was almost 4-0. Now he's 0-4.
This is scary because even though he is 0-4, still the same level as for Renjaru, but it honestly was good enough for Hugs and Kisses because they've been able to get such a nice little bit of a lead starting up there. 1K, especially since that Gold Fury went down the whole 10th stop. Priv's getting dove under. Beats have been popped in a nice immune there with the dash by Oceans to get away from the ultimate.
Mineral unable to get either of them with that ult. Unfortunately for him, Oceans does have the pluck to get out of there, and Nayu down to about half health. Mineral rotate over. They'll be able to take this red buff and get that one online for Nayu, hitting level 9 onto the Agni. Primitive forced to use the beads early on there as well, so they could be looking for that potential target next fight.
I mean, they could, right? But who else is going to burn it other than Mineral's ultimate? Nayu could hit a long-range stun, but other than that, I'm not really scared of any of the other CC on the board there for Slaughter Squadron. I mean, unless Uzi makes that rotation, which he probably will not by the time Primitive gets those beads back up, he's probably fine.
Is Uzi going into a mystical mail second item? I mean, it's a little early, in my opinion, to go for it, and a little strange to go normally be a breastplate if you're going for physical defense, but is this going to be mystical mail out of this steel mail?
It could be. It could also be something like contagion. Oh, actually not contagion. It would be... What else would it be? Maybe Mid-Guardian? It could be a lot of things here, as this could be a big fight to remember on this left-hand side.
Big heal out of Kirmi, but it's not enough. Mineral is around the corner to help secure that kill. Dive in from Renjaru trying to find one, but he's forced to dash away. Ocean might not be as lucky as he goes right back into the belly of the beast. Gets taken down by BennyQ finally on the board, but Mineral dives in. He finds Renjaru after all of it. Flame Wave stun out of Nayu, grabs Privative, and a couple of bombs put him down to a third health. Privative forced to walk away. Great fight finally out of Slaughter Squadron.
Yeah, now we're seeing them be basically even. 20 gold or so on either side really will do it. But Cerberus, man, he does some damage. Just check out how much he's chunking in this replay. I believe he gets 2 kills here in this last engagement. And honestly, he did most of the damage here, I have to say. And oh my gosh, what just happened in Solo Lane? Fun Crush took down Chronic yet again.
Yeah, ultimate out of Ozzy, no ult for, or ultimate use out of Chronic as well. I mean, kind of just the lather, rinse, repeat, and they're looking for something more on to Kirmi. Diving under, but Fun Crush is tanking the tower. He's going to be forced to walk away from that one, unable to continue the aggression. And you are just a little assassin. You can't really hold on to that tower that long. But it is going to be the Mystical Mail picked up by Ozzy, going for a very aggressive item early on. And Kirmi, no, he kind of takes the beating onto that one. They get the tier 1 tower. Fun Crush will pay with his life, so a 1-for-1 trade for that tier 1.
Yeah, well, that tier 1 also was taken down, like you said, so that is an incredibly important detail to keep an eye on. And I think, it's hard to say for sure, right, but this Mystical Mail is going to be very helpful in terms of keeping the blinks off the board, because you've got to be out of combat to be able to blink. And so if they're in combat because of these little damage ticks from the Mystical Mail, they're not going to be able to engage. And BennyQ actually gets a solo off on this left-hand side, and we thought he wasn't going to do it, being, what, 1 and 4 before that engagement, but he actually does continue to be ahead in this lane.
Oceans and Kirmi on rotation, however, BennyQ doesn't notice them as they wrap around without the wards. BennyQ level 12 now, but his ultimate is down. Gonna be a tail whip and a pin from Kirmi, followed by all he's gonna need is a turtle or just 1 cleave auto will be enough. Kirmi picks up BennyQ, trading it out as a 1-1. We do see a little bit of the replay under C4. It is the ultimate, just gets 3 shots onto it, dashing through, gets mezzed out, but able to pick him up and get a clean kill for himself. But because of it, it loses ultimate. Ultimate, or out of Ozzy now, is going to lock Kirmi down by this rope before the steel. Kirmi doesn't have his own ult. Ozzy able to trade him out and picks up another one. It's just a bunch of 1-kill picks all across the map.
I mean, that was some nutty damage coming out of Ozzy there, and honestly, that might be another reason why you get the Mystical Mail on Odin, just being able to lock people in the cage and force them to take those ticks for at least a couple of seconds while they're stuck in that cage. I mean, I can see the logic there. There's a lot of other options that he could have gone, but I mean, Ozzy certainly is not a newbie on the block. If he's going to go for Mystical Mail, there's obviously a reason why.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned Ozzy is kind of the premier Odin player among these players specifically. Ozzy is kind of the one to it, and I mean, like you said, Mystical Mail keeps you from blinking, but also keeps anybody else from blinking out. And Jeremy had blink available. When you get caught out by the cage, all it takes is that one little tick. Then he drops down 1 bomb, and Slaughter Squadron able to secure the Oni Fury off that rotation from the solo laner. Another quick pause coming through. Might have to throw it back up here for just a moment, but Slaughter Squadron were falling behind, to say the least, at the very beginning of it. I mean, BennyQ was 0-4, now 2-5, and took another spill onto it, but they're 8-6 overall, so they're not too worried about it. I mean, when 5 of the 6 deaths are on one person, it's not really the end of the world for you.
Gotta agree with you there. Once you've taken someone down so many times in the early game, their gold worth starts to go down by a significant portion. So because BennyQ took 4 deaths back to back to back without really any in between, he's not really worth a whole lot when he dies for that 3rd time, for the 4th time. So now that they've gotten back into it, they've gotten an Oni Fury on their side. This could be a real turning point here for Slaughter Squadron.
I mean, even still, despite being down 5 deaths compared to your enemy hunter. He's a level up against him. Renjaru hasn't been able to get that same level of farm because Benny has been pushed back so much. He's able to get a little bit more experience for himself. He's able to make his kills much more worthwhile. Maybe level 13 now on the Agni. Finished up his Divine Ruin and his Spear of Desolations. He's got a lot of power online for this mid laner, and Pyromancer stood no chance against Slaughter Squadron. Another objective goes the way of the blue team.
Hugs and Kisses were busy with the Oni minions there. They didn't have time to come over there and check that Pyromancer, but Benny Q needs all the time in the world, really, because he's going to try and fight his way through 3 people as they chase him down, but the plug is good, and that might just give him enough time to fight back.
He's going to use the ultimate and dashing in the middle of him. He's got 5 health left, and then that's gone just like that. Mineral dives into the back, gets a stun onto Kirmi, but that's about all that he's got. He doesn't have his leap, still has the ultimate available if he gets caught out. Will have to use it. Feeds out of Kirmi and ult out of Oceans will mean that he grabs nobody with it. Bone Crush ults on a primitive to the back, but Kirmi finds Mineral. Now with 3 still alive on the side of Hugs and Kisses, they could turn towards Bone Crush, gets the Blink Pluck, overthrow the ultimate out of Renjaru, will bring him back in line, messes out Bone Crush. And then with the So Beautiful afterward, will take him down. Renjaru gets himself on the board.
And you just forget how obnoxious it can be to have the Apollo go back at no HP and then ult back in with the huge knockup. And characters like that we have not seen in a hot minute up in competitive play. Someone like Athena can kind of do that same exact thing, but this time it's the ADC who can do the nice little reset there, be able to come back in and make some work happen. And that's exactly what they did, but unfortunately there's nothing left on the map to really grab. They were able to push and steal away at least a little bit of XP in the jungle there from Slaughter Squadron, but they've got to be pushing at more strategic times if they can, because they've got to get at least a little bit more on the board here. They are only down a little under 1k at this point, which honestly is very good considering their performance in the last game. So Hugs and Kisses are definitely still in this one. It's a lot closer than game number 1.
The big problem for me is Benny Q is trying to play like he's 6-2, but unfortunately for him, he's 2-6, and that last little fight was very evident of what happens when you try and fight 3 people alone and when you're pushed up with no coverage for yourself. I mean, he's constantly pushing up to this tier 1 tower despite being so far behind. Kirmi's going to get caught out inside the cage, and, well, that's all she wrote for the jungler. But they've been in a lot just to take down one. Primitive switches to the ice transformation under the towers. Mineral Fun Crush, and does he diving in. Uses the flicker to get away from Fun Crush for the time. Mineral grabs Oceans only with that ultimate. Instant work in the waters. He will go to zone away the support. Now Benny Q is the one who's going to take the brunt of the damage from it, but he has to retreat as well. Ult available for him, and only a bomb for Nayu. I mean, they expended so much just to get that one pick.
Honestly, it was worth it, right? Because they have not been able to fight back, really. Hugs and Kisses down their jungler didn't really seem to have much of a fight in them. They didn't chase any of those kills. They didn't really try and stop them other than sending a little bit of poke their way. So, I mean, if Hugs and Kisses bend over, then by all means, if they get on the knee, you say, for sure, I mean, bow down.
It's a rated edge online very early out of Fun Crush. I mean, we haven't seen this item very much. I mean, what makes it so powerful here for this Nemesis?
It's pretty good, right? Because she's not going for a ton of cooldown in the build, so the more often those non-ultimate abilities are on cooldown, the harder she's going to be hitting, which is great because you pop all your abilities getting in, and then once they're down, you just swing a couple of times, they're already slowed because of the ultimate and the slice and dice. So at this point, I mean, once we're there, right? And especially if she's going into more crit, it's gonna hurt.
They throwing those bombs and you can see how much they're starting to do against Primitive. Took about a quarter of their health just from that first bomb through. And I mean, we're only 3.5 items in. Once we start getting a little bit further down the line, I mean, those are going to start chunking even harder. Red buff invade once again by Slaughter Squadron. They'll take that one down. Mineral will put that one around his waist. Benny and Renjaru having a little bit of a slapboxing fight, but once again, Oceans and Kirmi on rotation to try and lock down this Hunter player. Benny's forced to walk away. Fun Crush will dash next to him, but it's all to try and set up for the Primal Fury that has respawned. That's where our next little fight is surely to take place.
So laners have made this rotation, and Chronic is trying to poke back at Neu, who sends out a bomb in response. He's mostly trying to just see who's going to budge from Hugs and Kisses. Building up that passive on the Gold Fury, but now Oceans is stuck.
Oceans gets trapped in the cage, able to find a way out, has the Phantom gap for the time being. Ult out of Benny Q will dash in and get the final shot. Jeremy can't close the gap to get him, but he might be able to pick up Mineral instead. Use the Purification Beads and one more basic, plus the heal out of 9 turns. Blessing is enough to get the pickup. Chronic has to zone the rest of the team. Up in the sky is Renjaru, but who is he looking for? Just a way out for the Hunter. He'll dive back over to the mid lane to maybe get a little bit of farm for himself.
Perhaps, or he could just hop on that Pyromancer. Really, he's going for the long-distance split push, traveling all the way across the map, using most of his mana, but he is Apollo, so he's gonna have some nutty attack speed, despite his lack of mana. If he's able to just grab that tower, that's a pretty solid trade there, and especially because they got Mineral in that last fight, trading out Oceans there for the tower too is pretty solid.
I wish I could get this kind of ward coverage in my game. 28 wards placed just between the mid laner and the support out of Hugs and Kisses. I mean, they're keeping this map covered. Meanwhile, FunCrush is keeping Renjaru into the fountain. Solo kill on the right-hand side, but Kirby picks up Nave. Uzi's stuck inside of his own cage. He's going to get plucked back, has the leap, but it's just not enough to get away from the onslaught of Kirby. Double kill out of the jungler for Hugs and Kisses. That sets up for the Primal Fury. Mineral still here, no ultimate available just yet. FunCrush might be able to try and steal away this Primal Fury, but it's not going to be enough for them. Hugs and Kisses secure the objective. FunCrush low on mana, stuck in the middle of them, but Hugs and Kisses will retreat with their prize.
Not gonna lie, I was hoping FunCrush was gonna just double dash in and then full commit to that engagement, but instead just going to back off. He actually did burn the beads, it seems, a little bit earlier, so perhaps was scared of fully committing to that, but an interesting combination he's gone for. The Malice is the selection for him, which, you know, I kind of understand. I think it's a solid idea. You're kind of thinking to yourself, okay, well, Serrated Edge works when my abilities are on cooldown, but Malice puts my abilities back off cooldown, so why would I do that? Well, by the time that you get in range to be able to use those crits, you've used up all of your abilities, so you come in with no abilities up after you use them all, and then you crit a couple of times, your abilities come off cooldown, you can double dash out again.
Looking for more crit as they're going into one of the shurikens this time around. We'll see what option they choose to go with it. Possibly a Poison Star. There's the Shadow Steel Shuriken for some anti-heal potential onto it. Wouldn't be the worst option for him. And going up against Kirmi, going up against it, Kirmi has kind of been a problem for them. More anti-heal would never be a bad option in my opinion, but we'll see where he opts to go to. Pyromancer falls to Slaughter Squadron yet again. They're able to keep that objective on lock for themselves. Uzi pushing forward, gets the blink and the cage onto Chronic. That's going to be the ultimate out of FunCrush as well. Nowhere for the Alpha to go. Third one expended to take him down. They might be able to get another one with Ocean. He gets his pluck blocked. And FunCrush picks up the double kill. Great dash out of Neu. Make sure that they can take down Oceans one more time. Fire Giant started up. FunCrush on top, and you can see those crits starting to come through. Fire Giant down to half health, and nobody from Hugs and Kisses able to get in and stop that one. They might find Benny out of anything for him. If Benny's going to use his ultimate just for some damage reduction, Fire Giant goes to Slaughter Squadron.
The split push, though, was pretty good as that left-hand side tower did end up falling down, and up in the sky is the Apollo, but Privative is the target once again. Has to try and burn the ultimate to stay alive, but he's surrounded. Caged down one more time, and another stack on the board there for Uzi's passive. And again, they are just dominantly pushing through this mid lane.
It's only a 2,000 gold lead in favor of Slaughter Squadron. These aren't quite out of it just yet, but with all these towers going down, that's going to slowly increase that lead. Now 3,000 in their favor, and they still got another 3,000 on the map in towers that they can grab. Hugs and Kisses, I mean, they've been putting up a strong fight. The problem is they just keep separating, getting picked off one by one. You saw Chronic left alone, and then Oceans decided to be the team player support. I'm going to save your life, and he gets caught out himself.
Yeah, the positioning there from Hugs and Kisses just not on the same level, it seems, as Slaughter Squadron. And of course, we've seen Slaughter Squadron slip up a couple of times here and there, but a lot more consistent, it seems, from the boys on the order side. But here we can see the counter push. Fire is on Slaughter Squadron, but Hugs and Kisses say, yeah, you have fire. So what? We're going for this tier 2 tower.
And that's what I was trying to get up with the lead onto it. It was only 2,000, not even 2,000 when they took that Fire Giant. They really only built that lead after Fire Giant was taken down. So in my books here, this is still a pretty dead even game. Even if you look at experience across the board, it's what, a level between the top 3 onto the team, supports and hunters. I mean, hunters, quote unquote. You know, Benny's got 1 level up on the Renjar for only a split second. So I mean, this is basically still, in my opinion, a dead even game. But going in towards the Phoenixes, where it pretty much is going to be the next big fights for Slaughter Squadron, Hugs and Kisses. I mean, who's got the advantage in these Phoenix pushes?
It's going to be all up to seeing if Nayu can actually hit some sick bombs, because as you said earlier, it takes a little bit of time for Agni to get online, and now that he has 30% cooldown, you're going to be sitting on bombs every 18 or so seconds at the very maximum, probably a little bit less than that even. So at the very least, you're going to have a giant AoE damaging ability, but hold that thought as a giant dive onto 2 in mid.
Benny is already gone. Mineral at a quarter. He gets a 3-man stun with that paralyzing spit, but now he's stuck in the middle of 5, and there's 2 with the Fire Giant buff already gone, playing so aggressive by themselves at the non-existent tier 2. I'm scratching my head on that one, Slaughter Squadron.
They might have thought that they were still in game number 1, but your lead is not so big in this game, Slaughter Squadron. Gotta play a little more careful if you want to be able to win this one again to close out the set, but this is the perfect time for Hugs and Kisses to have grabbed this lead, because the Oni Fury is available, but a level 20 Uzi doesn't want to let this go away so easily. He's popped the shield, about to go in.
Hugs and Kisses do manage to get the Oni Fury, so that'll give them a little bit of a minion advantage in their next fight. And with that one, they trade out a tier 1 tower, also get the Fury for themselves, and 2 kills. And that gold lead is already starting to slowly push back towards Hugs and Kisses, and with the carry no longer with that Fire Giant buff, and that's going to slow down a lot of the push from Slaughter Squadron. Another thing onto it for me, who's going to do the damage to the Phoenixes? They don't have a traditional hunter.
Well, the thing about that is that if Tsukiyomi's got a ton of cooldown, which he does, he's actually able to hit towers and Phoenixes outside of the range with his range auto attacks. So if he can consistently find the poke, maybe get a couple of resets on the shuriken, he's going to be able to do some pretty decent damage from at least a safer range than actually being in melee range of the Phoenix, right? So throwing out those autos consistently, finding that poke on the Phoenix will be able to eventually open up the squad for a dive, but you know, they've got to really depend on that, and obviously Hugs and Kisses know that. They've played up against a Tsukiyomi at least a number of times in ranked and comp in general, so they know exactly how this works.
Pyromancer started again by Slaughter Squadron. They've gotten the 2 previous ones. We'll see if they can secure a 3rd for themselves. As Hugs and Kisses, only Primitive is really here to put up a hard defense for it. The rest of the team kind of sitting a little further back. They're going to think otherwise of going onto the Pyromancer for the time being. Ward coverage is in favor of Slaughter Squadron at this Fire Giant, set to respawn here in just under 10 seconds. They'll be coming back up, and that'll be where the next big fight breaks out. Luckily for them, they do have an Apollo. I'm surprised they're not using Renjar to split push right now, because he has that ability to come back in. Instead, Slaughter Squadron will go right onto the Pyromancer and quickly burn that one down.
That's what Crit'll do for you, and though you don't have a Hunter with Crit, you certainly have a Nemesis with it. And Ocean is forced to pop the Phantom, but he might actually be stuck, forced into the ult.
The cage is now gone, and Ocean's under a quarter health. Has to retreat with that lurking in the waters. That'll be a quick disengage for both teams. Uzi and Vuncrush still looking for a little bit of a fight, but Uzi takes a frost bolt to the dome, and he'll lose about 20% of his health from it. So he's going to start respecting the magic damage that comes out of Primitive, because he's only built 1 true magical defense item so far.
Yeah, you really do have to consider the poke that Merlin can have, especially in these tight corridors around the Fire Giant. There's not a whole lot of space that you can really go. You have to either go backwards or forwards, and because of the size of Merlin's projectiles, you're going to be basically in that range, and for anyone at this level of play, it's pretty simple to be able to hit those when there's limited juking options.
Mineral's going to tap the Fire Giant just to kind of try and bait somebody out. Blinging from Uzi is going to find Chronic. No Phantom available to get him out immediately, but he is not taking a lot of damage here. In fact, they're turning a lot of damage back onto Mineral and Uzi. Up into the skies is the Apollo. Renjaru lands down, looking for Nayu. He will find one. Benny Q trapped on the wrong side of the battleground. Doesn't have very many places to go. He's going to ult Aegis out of Renjaru. He's going to land onto Oceans. Benny Q can't find the last hit to secure either of the kills at the time. Ocean's trying to leap away, jukes out one, misses the basic attack out of Benji. Chronic is on retreat over, gonna try and slow down Benny Q. Oceans gets the tail whip to secure his safety. The cow chop doing a lot of damage back. Benny does manage to find it, but Primitive finds the Frostbolt, finally dropping the assassin.
Dang, if Priv had just been a little bit closer, they might not have had to trade out Oceans for it. But at the end of the day, it's not the worst trade in the world. 1 for 2, losing only the support for that. I mean, I'm not going to complain about that, but you can already see that that's not going to make much of a difference here in the meta game. It's they still have to fight around this Fire Giant. There's no real option for anyone to go off and push aside. And I mean, you did mention that Apollo is pretty good at split pushing, but honestly, now that the knockup has been restored to that ultimate, I don't think he's really going to be using it other than a re-engage after already fighting.
Big thing I noticed in that fight is Uzi went for the blink start. Him and Mineral dive in immediately, but they're the ones who got turned on. Chronic took basically no damage inside of that cage. They turned their sights right back onto him, and Mineral unfortunately took a lot more poke. I think he was willing to accept. Fun Crush has to double dash away and ult, but Chronic has an ult of his own and is more than willing to chase down the assassin. No beads and no way to get out of that one will mean the end of his life. Cage and the ult out of Mineral will drop down. They're able to pick up one. Chronic can't get out of the cage just yet, looking for an escape path. He's so fast with the bird bomb, is able to catch him out before he can get the dash out. 2 for 1 trade so far. Hugs and kisses are losing out a little fight. Benny Q tosses the ultimate in, but he goes all the way into the back line. Priv and Renjaru are more than happy to take the trade through, but Primitive is the one who's getting the worst end of it. Mineral leaps in and gets the kill onto him. That's now 3 for 1 in favor of Slaughter Squadron.
Both tanks and both carries still available for Slaughter Squadron means that it's time to go for this Fire Giant. And now that we've just ticked over the 30-minute mark, we've got an enhanced Fire Giant on our hands. And actually, it looks like Slaughter Squadron are going to slow down at least a little bit on the DPS here, as they might want to be waiting for Fun Crush, but they can't be too slow because Oceans and Renjaru are here.
Renjaru is stuck inside the cage. Will manage to dash out, but unfortunately he eats too much damage from it. Oceans is trying to find Mineral if they can. They stop them from getting the enhanced Fire Giant. Even though they lose Renjaru for it, they might be saying that that's all worthwhile in their books, as long as Oceans can get out.
Oceans is out, but he's not leaving quite yet, as he knows that they still have the potential to turn around and start it up, and you can already see they've once again gone back to it, but this has bought enough time for Primitive to come up, and Chronic and Kirmi are sprinting on their way.
Fire Giant's only down to half. Benny Q dives off the Fire Giant and onto Oceans instead. Chronic gets hit by the ult out of Fun Crush. That gets the dazzling offensive, pulls him off the Fire Giant yet again. Nayu not going to get the stun onto the solo laner, and Kirmi not going to have enough to stop Fun Crush. Puts him so low, but now Fun Crush can't deal with this Fire Giant. He's low in health though. I'm not sure he can continue the fight through. Primitive goes on to Benny Q, pulls them back in, and that's a quick trade out for him. Fun Crush goes into the Fire Giant pit. He walks through the fire. That's going to do a lot of damage to him, but it's not enough to save his life. Unfortunately, Fire Giant claims 1. Chronic sticks 2 of them inside of it. Unfortunately, nobody's able to get that Fire Giant just yet. Renjaru could maybe turn and try and get a pick here. And instead, he will dive into the backline onto Nayu, gets stunned out, and may lose his life for it.
Oh my goodness. What a turnaround there. Renjaru comes back in the ultimate. He's coming through on the cherry. You think he's good to go, but he comes straight into the tower, and Nayu gets out barely ahead there, and the turnaround there from the rest of the boys just to clean that one up were so good. And honestly, this has been such a back and forth engagement around this Fire Giant, but even still, no one has really been able to pull out a clean win on either side, and that's really just due to the fact that once these fights are over, nobody has enough people to even do the Fire Giant. You saw them really try to do it. They even came back after winning the second fight in a row, did Slaughter Squadron, but again, just split up in those timers. Not enough time for the whole squad to be able to chunk through this EFG.
that vortex from Privative to kill Benny Q is so important for him because now they lose a lot of their fight potential because Benny Q was nearly full health when he took down Ocean, so Privative able to get the 1v1 off to him. Third time might be the charm, says Slaughter Squadron as they go onto the Fire Giant and immediately jump back off of it. Oceans has to use the Phantom to get out of the cage from Uzi, so that relic back on cooldown, and that support goes back to the Fountain. And now the Pyromancer, once again, fourth time this game, goes to Slaughter Squadron, but that seems to be all that they can get. That's the 3 attempts on Fire Giant and 0 successful outcomes.
Honestly, if I'm Slaughter Squadron, I'm sending Fun Crush to go solo Gold Fury real quick. If they're not going to commit to this fight on fire, they might as well go get the Primal Fury, right? That's going to help them at least chunk through this Fire Giant a little bit easier because you can see Mineral is barely doing any damage to it so far, but they do have a solid standing here, but only if Fun Crush lives this.
Fun Crush does manage to get through. Neu with a big bomb is able to keep him alive. Chronic stuck inside the cage and a double kill for the Agni. All 6 items online for the Mage, and he is starting to chunk through. Fire Giant gets a little bit of extra poke onto Neu, but it's a 3 versus 5. Dash in from Neu, not gonna find the stun off the back, but an Aegis is forced out because the Eclipse from Privative over the wall does a lot of damage back to him. Fire Giant is not going to be able to be started up by Hugs and Kisses. They're all too low for it.
And that's exactly what Hugs and Kisses are going to try and capitalize on. They know that at least 1 or 2 people have backed, and in reality 4 members have backed the Slaughter Squadron, and so they're able to finally at least get themselves the posturing around the Fire Giant. But even if they win this fight, it's still only 34 minutes in this game so far. I don't think they'd have enough time to end, even if they totally got a deicide 5-0 in this next fight.
Neu finally puts himself on the board with 2 kills. Fire Giant 4th. Maybe 5th time's the charm. We'll see if they're able to secure this one away. Slaughter Squadron do manage to get the objective. Uzi traps Oceans inside the cage, and Oceans dashes a little too early and loses his life to Benny Q, but Benny takes a huge chunk of damage from Primitive's Merlin. Primitive doing everything they can to slow them down. Throws out a Frostbolt, throws out the Blizzard, and into the Arcane Stance to try and hold them off just a little bit longer. But even after the Fire Giant, Slaughter Squadron still can't push forward onto Hugs and Kisses.
They're calling the reset, but here comes Renjaro up in the sky. Mineral's forced to ult, and up, down. We could see the Apollo come through to keep the fight going, but it's all about where he lands.
They get the knock-up onto Mineral. Chronic going in with the dazzling offensive, finds Benny and Mineral and managed to pick up the kill onto 1. Kirmi finds Fun Crush. Mineral still low. It's now a 4 versus 3, and despite getting the Fire Giant, Slaughter Squadron stick around too long and get caught lazy backing in the jungle.
So unfortunate there. You could see right just by the way that they were playing that Slaughter Squadron were really divided on the call there. Benny got poked out really low. You could see that Neu was already starting to back, and Fun Crush was also not in the best spot health-wise. But everyone on the front line's like, yeah, man, I'm pretty healthy. I'm good to go. And unfortunately for them, that did cost both of those carries their lives. No assassins are alive right now for Slaughter Squadron, so they've once again got to slow it down, wait for the respawn, and then try one more time to push through to a Phoenix, I hope.
The one thing that's been screaming for me into this one is they have not found an answer to Privative. I mean, what does Slaughter Squadron have to do to slow down this mid lane? I mean, being 3-2-7 doesn't sound overly impressive, but he has been a massive thorn in their sides. I mean, what is it going to take to slow this Merlin down?
It's really hard to say because you can't really get to the Merlin with this composition. Uzi is basically the one in charge of starting the fight, and for him to even do that in the first place, he has to already have forced the Phantom out from the Sobek. So if there's no Phantom on the board, then you're good to go. But the issue is, even if you go into the back and cage the Merlin, he's just going to blink out of there. So you have to pick someone else. And over again, it has been Oceans on this Sobek who has been the first blood in these fights. So, I mean, it's a good choice, but even then, there's still so much peel available. And the front line coming out from both Kirmi and Chronic is a little too much for everyone to handle once they've thrown everything onto Oceans.
I'm a little worried for Slaughter Squadron's Phoenix push because they're having a hard time in the jungle fighting against Hugs and Kisses. I can only imagine the escalation of how much worse it could be for them. Trying to dive under a structure, blinging from Fun Crush, diving onto Privative, but a quick flicker gets him out. Uzi dives into the backline, trying to find the sun, gets the cage. The Phantom is not necessary for them for the time being. They'll just break open the side wall, and Uzi getting so low. Benny diving onto Kirmi, but Kirmi's got the turtle to get away. Chronic finds Uzi with the help of his mid laner. Oceans diving in will push them all away. Rinjaru manages to find a knockup on the one. Quick beads will get him out of the ultimate, but the Cerberus has to dash away because Fun Crush gets thrown right back to him, and Oceans takes a spill, but Primitive with the Ice Bolt finds one, and Kirmi finds Benny through the disarm thanks to the help of those purification beads.
Nice jump there by Mineral, but Chronic is so fast, and Neu is just waiting on the cooldown from the dash, but Mineral, I mean, he's just dead. He has no cooldown on this dash here. Amaterasu is fast enough to keep up, even beyond the dash, and that Blink's not going to save him for long, I promise you that. Chronic is going to keep the chase up, and especially if he can charge up through that minion wave, he's going to have some solid damage, a little bit out of range there for the stun, so maybe Mineral lives after all. All that sustain coming from the Fire Giant was good enough to keep this Cerberus alive.
Well, Hades Dog will make it out for the time being, but I'm not sure about the Phoenix. It's being dove on by all four. Neu's got 3 bombs now down, used up for the defense. Primitive throws out the Eclipse, and the mid lane Phoenix will fall. A quick turnaround by Hugs and Kisses net them the first Phoenix of the game.
It's kind of surprising to see, considering how dominant it feels like Slaughter Squadron have been, and now that that Phoenix is down, there really is nothing standing in Hugs and Kisses' way from getting to that Titan room. It's going to be all about getting this next team fight, because if they can do that, then it's game. I mean, even if they only kill 3 people, and honestly even 2 people, they could end the game right here and there, but with the Fire Giant coming up, we might end up seeing yet another stalemate, and especially because that Fire Minion wave is coming through the mid, it's not a huge deal to send one member to go clear that one off. That can be managed very easily.
I just saw a 1200 crit out of Fun Crush on that Pyromancer. I think 1243 was the number I saw pulled up for it. I mean, with that serrated edge, can get a lot of that extra power onto it, like you mentioned earlier on, if you can get all 3 stacks. But, I mean, the problem that I'm finding with Fun Crush is, yeah, he's got all this crit power, but who's he using it on? At the moment, really nobody. Just the tanks is kind of where he's centered a lot of the focus onto it. And, we saw the attempted dive onto Primitive, but then again, Merlin flickers out, right back into 4 people, and Fun Crush kept that dive under the Phoenix and wasn't able to get anything for it. I said my biggest struggle that I find with Slaughter Squadron is they're having a hard time fighting in the jungle. The Phoenix just proved that it was even worse for them.
Fun Crush is looking to try and get a pick here, but dashes in a little aggressively. This could be the time that Oceans gets aggressive here, and Fun Crush, man, he is stuck. He has to use the beads and is forced to ult as well, but he's gonna get burned down.
Ultimate out of the support might be able to keep him alive for the time being. They'll be able to pick up 1, but Kirmi finds Benny Q. 2 for 1 exchange. Oceans finds Fun Crush. Mineral dives back to help Neu, but unfortunately that leaves Uzi behind to deal with the sharks of Hugs and Kisses. As Kirmi picks up 1. Now it's a 4 versus 2. Like you said, they pick up 3. They might be able to dive onto this Titan, but it is still an Agni on the back end. They've got to be careful of this mage's damage output, and with Mineral as their frontliner, it's a dangerous task to try and push into this Titan.
Oceans has Blink. There is beads available for Neu, and I expect that he should be able to react in time to a pluck should it come through. But if Neu does end up bush beadsing, that honestly would be the game. And they're pushing up here. They don't have a whole lot of time. 20 seconds left for BennyQ. They've got to put the pedal to the metal here.
Unfortunately, 2 bombs on the mid lane are doing a lot of damage, but they've got a Phantom for that extra protection and a dive onto the Titan. They pick up Neu and the end game objective for it. A little bit longer of a game 2 this time around, but Hugs and Kisses even out the scoreboard, and we're going to go to a game 3.
Insane turnaround there from Hugs and Kisses, and honestly, from the way that game 1 happened, I had no doubt in my mind that game 2 was going straight over to Slaughter Squadron, but instead, we saw such a long, calculated game coming from Hugs and Kisses, and eventually, that netted them the win. So if they can do that in game number 3, then we might just see a reverse sweep, which, I mean, it is a 3-game set, so not really kind of the qualifications you need for that sort of naming, but even still, it would feel really good for Hugs and Kisses to get this win.
The big thing for me that Hugs and Kisses need to remember going into game 3 is remember what you banned in game 2 to help you get to this point. Because sure, Benny Q didn't really pop off this game. I mean, you look at the player damage, you think otherwise at 32,000, but 12 deaths to his name. He wasn't able to kind of be that carry for his team. Fun Crush started falling behind a little bit. Mineral doing everything they can to the Cerberus. I mean, the problem that I saw was just team fights weren't going their way. They have great pick comps with this one, but their team fight just felt so lacking.
They just couldn't get to the back line. Uzi just had no way to really cage in the back line at all. And when you have to keep wasting the cage over and over and over again on the frontliner, you're spending all your damage to try to chew through them. And really nobody on the side of Slaughter Squadron had any way to really deal with that.
Well, let's see what adjustments are made going into game number 3. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to see the conclusion, the final game of this best-of-3 set to see who's going to be knocked down to 5th seed and who will move on with an even record at least. Stick around. We'll be back in just a few minutes. Game number 3 for Slaughter Squadron and Hugs and Kisses. A decisive game 1 led to a Slaughter Squadron 1-0. And after a much longer, a little bit more drawn out game 2, Hugs and Kisses are able to round it out and bring us to an even set. And it's kind of a winner take all in this scenario, Lerman, because the winner of this one stays at the 4th seed at an even 2-2 record. The loser of this one is basically sent home packing for the remainder of this split.
Yeah, it would really suck to be the one to lose out here because there's so much on the line, right? Because SCC is that step down from the SPL. So if they're able to actually be in contention here for possibly even a world spot, I mean, these teams would probably do anything for that.
Yeah, and it's a really tall to order for them because you have Winter Dogs, Get a Grip, Froggy are all contending up for that top seed at the moment. I mean, those are difficult teams to topple more than anything. I believe Froggy was 3-0 going into today, if I'm not mistaken, onto. I mean, you've got to really have every win possible if you want to stand a chance to make it in that upper half of the SCC for this phase, and this game is what it's going to take. Getting this one means you got the chance for it. The most important part of this game here, picks and bans for game number 3. Time to start them out here. I mean, we talked about how last time they needed to ban the set away from Slaughter Squadron. That kind of forced Benny into an awkward Tsukuyomi pick here, and I'm not really sure how well it worked out for him. He put up a lot of damage, but when you fall 6 and 12, even if having that 32,000 damage, it just doesn't make up for me, in my opinion.
I can understand the thought process of going to the Tsukuyomi as a fallback from the set, but if set's not there, just go back to what you know. Play the traditional hunters, bring out a Rom, bring out a Cupid. I mean, they left Cupid open, for goodness sake, and you kind of just ignored it there. So I definitely think that going back to what's tried and true, if this set doesn't get let through, and I mean, if it does get let through, then we're going to have some problems. But even still, I'm sure Hugs and Kisses already know exactly what they need to do here, besides ban Persephone. Of course, that's a given. Persephone is still pretty nutty in the meta, and she certainly would be insane on a person like Neu, so taking that one out is almost equally as important as getting rid of the set.
Yeah, I think the set, the Cthulhu need to be banned. I'd honestly ban the Erlong Shen if I was Slaughter Squadron, because Kirimi put in a lot of work for them in that last game. Sun Wukong going to be banned away yet again for Slaughter Squadron, so looking like it's going to be the same bans out of them. And really, they don't have any reason not to. They didn't really hard lose out on that game 2 over any particular pick. So for them, if they just do the same draft that they have this entire time, I mean, Slaughter Squadron could work out so long as Hugs and Kisses make the correct bans through. Cthulhu will be taken away. That's number 1. We got to see the set for number 2.
You're making me a little nervous here, Hugs and Kisses. You have one choice. There's only one. Please make the right one. You know what to do. Yes, okay, we're good. Okay, we can relax now, J-Mac. There's no set in this game. Benny Q's not going to do a run back of game number 1.
And it is going to be the Kuzumbo yet again from Slaughter Squadron. So same bans they've had through, and they're going to take the Sobek this time around for Slaughter Squadron, give themselves a nice and well-rounded support to start it off. But as a first pick for themselves, I'm a little worried on that because Hugs and Kisses, I mean, Chronic had a pretty nice Alma last game. It didn't really get to pop off, but it really did help them in those late game team fights.
Yeah, I think Sobek honestly is a great first pick here because Mineral has been on the aggressive supports all night long, going back to yet another one and taking that away from the other support who had just played it. I mean, now you're forcing them to get off of something that they had just played for 40 plus minutes. Putting them on something new, of course, is going to be the question mark here, but like you said, back again to this Erlang Shen for, I assume, Kirimi. He had a great game number 2, so why put him on anything else?
Yeah, and Amaterasu is still available if they want to go into it. Instead, they'll go for the Cupid that was banned away phase 2 last time around. So Hugs and Kisses want to get their dual laner onto something a little bit different this time around. The Apollo worked out well for them, but they're going to go onto the Cupid, who's kind of that top 2 hunter at the moment. But that leaves the Raw open for the side of Slaughter Squadron. Going to put that one back into Neu's hand, who had an exceptional performance on him game 1.
As much as I think that Neu has a really, really sick Ra, I'm kind of concerned for this pick here because he's going to be in a lot of trouble if he gets stuck in the slow field, if he gets caught out by the root. I mean, Ra's a very susceptible character if he's kind of left on his own, and of course Sobek does have some solid peel, but check out what just got locked in for the mid there for Hugs and Kisses. That is a hell.
Hell is not one that we see very often, and even still only usually the top end players and the top Hell players pick up this goddess. I mean, what is it about Hell that makes her such a unique pickup? Most likely, I'm assuming here for this mid lane.
Well, if you're a good enough Hell, you can actually react to the Sobek pluck and cleanse it away, and that would honestly be huge because Sobek without his pluck, I mean, what is he other than a little bit of a knock-up, a little bit of a slow? But I mean, that's really depending on if Privative has as sick of a Hell as we are hoping he does. But again, it can also cleanse out the ultimate from the Heimdall. You're not going to get sent through the realms if you're able to cleanse away, and certainly there is enough time to be able to react to that a little bit more of a window than the pluck from Sobek, you would say.
Guan Yu banned away as well as the Odin. Don't want to deal with that one. You got a Hell. You might want to take Odin off the board. No let. I mean, especially with how well Uzi played last game, despite not really being able to get the picks onto the carries, he was still assisting so well and taking down the support, taking down the solo laner, forcing out so many relics and ultimates just to keep them alive. So even if it's just the Hell picked up here, I like the Odin ban onto it. Ymir, a little bit of a question. I see you kind of shaking your head at that one. But we saw what Mineral did with it game number 1. He had a really strong Ymir onto it. But my biggest problem is I'm not seeing the major follow-up, the big burst mid laner that you'd want off that Ymir pick.
Yeah, I mean, it's really good for isolating people and sticking them into that Cupid ult. But other than that, I mean, Ymir's biggest boon is his wall, and of course there really isn't anyone who can get over those walls very easily. I mean, Heimdall has a way out, and Horus certainly does as well, but they're not your traditional just jump over the wall characters. And ooh, especially with this Bakasura coming out, if there's any ability to just get on this Ymir, throw down the Regurgitate, and just hold him in place, I mean, Baka's going to be the one to chew straight through that health bar.
Yeah, this is not looking like a fun comp for a Ymir to go up against. Horus and Bakasura locked in immediately after. Sobek is already troublesome enough. But then you throw a god like Horus into support role, meaning it's going to be a solo Beck most likely, and a Bologna lock-in. This is a goddess we haven't seen in a long time.
This is literally just for the Bakasura. That's it. Just to disarm. That's the only reason, really.
Yeah, I mean, what better to have it than your solo laner to pick up something to counter what's going to be diving you into the later game. But as we look at these picks and bans, Lermy, game number 3 starting up here. Just looking at the drafts, though, I mean, who are you kind of giving the edge to in this?
It's so hard to say, right? Because both sides just have a little bit of that question mark. Will this actually work out the way that they're hoping that it will? And if it does, then either side could really take it. But if I've got to pick one, I'm going for Slaughter Squadron because I feel like their comp has a little bit less of that mechanical skill required to make it work, right? Mineral's got that easy 2-1 combo where he just holds him down, whereas Oceans has to be extremely precise with the wall and the freeze and all of that. So even beyond just the supports, I mean, Ra's got a beam. Neu's accurate at it. It's a line. How hard can that be?
Yeah, it feels like a much higher execution comp on the side of Hugs and Kisses. I mean, Hell is a mechanically intensive god into that mid lane by having to juggle between those stance switches. Chronic on the Bologna, I wouldn't call it necessarily as high of execution. You kind of just face roll your keyboard a little bit and you're good to go. But like you said, with Oceans, positioning is massive with this Ymir. You have to play very safe, very carefully. Otherwise, it could spell disaster for you.
Yeah, versus a Horus who basically is, I wouldn't say the handicap support because that's not at all how it works, but it's a lot easier to just be able to dash in and out and throw your whole team into a fight where Ymir kind of, like you said, has to play a little bit more careful, a little bit more calculated, and be able to really just hold down the fort for the boys, because otherwise Mineral is going to be able to just stomp all over him. You can see already that Kirmi is showing up early to put Chronic ahead, and honestly, Chronic has not had the best showing so far in this set, but now that he's got this lead on a bully character like Bologna, this could be huge.
Kind of a cheeky level 2 solo gank. Normally you don't see any action in solo lane until level 4, level 5 when you get your ultimate, but Kirmi makes a very quick change of pace. He's been going to dual lane every single game, but this time swaps it up. Able to get a first blood onto the solo laner. Fun Crush, no beads. Oceans able to burn those ones off of him. And that takes a little bit of the safety away from that jungle. You see, big blink in, just took too much poke from the solo laner, and sustain's not enough, so great rotation out of Kirmi.
Yeah, he knew exactly how much damage he needs to do, but there's a nice feed there from Renjaru to be able to get out of that one, because that had been dangerous there if he had gotten stuck in the full combo, and that's exactly why you pick up Blink first on a Horus support. If you can get the surprise attack up on the enemy ADC and hold him down, a couple autos more would do it, and that's really all you need in that instance.
Mineral and Benny Q pushing forward. Benny on a traditional hunter this time around. No set, exactly. No Tsukiyomi. Instead, it is the Heimdall. We kind of just grazed past it, but a big change in pace this time around. But he's going up against a tall order of Renjaru on the Cupid, who's kind of one of the top 2, top 3 hunters in the meta right now.
He is pretty solid, and it does a great job up into characters like Horus, who are so dependent on their ability to have all of that mobility. For instance, he couldn't have just done what he did there if crippled out by the Field of Love. So if Mineral gets caught in them, it could be rather concerning, but check out what's happening on the right-hand side. An invade nearly coming through in time, but just a little bit late on the docket there were Hugs and Kisses, and Ozzy does end up getting the blue, which is actually very, very good for the Sobek, because he's not going to be able to really get that much farther behind now that he has this solid bit of sustain.
Gonna keep the pressure up in duo lane is Benny and Mineral. They're not gonna allow Oceans and Renjaru to get the advantage over them into the lane, but for Oceans, I mean, as long as he's living, that's more than worth it for him, because as this Shamir can get picked out very early, and you can see how defensive he has to play against a Horus, but Horus has so much lockdown on him.
Yeah, really, but there is actually a short time frame where Oceans could react immediately with a freeze and actually cancel out the dash for Mineral if it's a max range dash. So having that at least in his back pocket that he could do is really helpful, but Mineral is a very solid support player, and if he just postures a little bit farther forward, Oceans just will not have the time to react, and you can already see Mineral wants to head back to base, give Benny most of the spar, but that's going to leave him wide open for a rotation.
Needs expended early on, he's going to be able to get out, but unfortunately for him, Renjaru's got a dash and a couple of good basics. After the Heart Bomb, Renjaru procs in a level 5 with that kill, and puts himself onto the board. First kill for the dual lane goes over to Hugs and Kisses.
What a good idea there. The fake Alpha Harpy attack. And they knew that Mineral actually did want to back there, because I'm sure that Oceans was very close to mirrored in gold there with the enemy support. So having enough for boots just as soon as the bird left the lane, that was the go button that they needed, and they made it work.
Late on the freeze as well, and Kirmi might be late on getting out of this. Doesn't have a beads available to himself, so he gets stomped down and has to go back to base. So finally Slaughter Squadron put themselves on the board, but back to the kill over there. Benny Q was so late on his beads. I mean, he took the full duration of the freeze before he decided to use it, and by that point it's too late. He was already trapped behind a wall.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't have the early aggression that he had before on some of those assassins. He's got to go back to the mindset of playing an actual hunter yet again, and Mineral is taking some very aggressive pathing, but not more aggressive than Fun Crush, who actually just invaded those camps, and Mineral preemptively is going to pop the ultimate to try and get out, but just too slow there on the retreat, and Mineral just needed to land a little bit sooner, and that might have been okay.
Unfortunately for him, they will lose the jungler for their first time. 3 on the board for Hugs and Kisses. Purple buff, potential invade there from Oceans, but he sees 2 and decides to think better of it. For the time being, though, they'll hold their lead up to the tune of about 1,300 gold for Hugs and Kisses. Kind of getting close to that 1,500 mark.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good look for them to be in, especially because they've got some solid XP leads. I mean, in the dual lane, they've got about half a level, in mid, it's a level at this point, and honestly, the experience difference really isn't that big, but at some of these earlier levels, just having one more rank in your ability can make a huge difference when it comes to your solid damage, because you're leveling up your main ability for the most part. For Rod, it's going to be the beam, and, you know, for instance, for Cupid, it's going to be the Heart Bomb, so one more stroke of damage up, and that really could be the difference between a kill or not.
Mayu having to sit back under the tower. 2 players in his lane, and I'm pretty sure he could have potentially spotted one on a ward. Kirmi gonna rotate through, will manage to find Fun Crush over by the back camp. They're not gonna have the chaser lock him down just yet. Rotating behind them is Mineral. They'll see him pop through onto the ward. Look to take that ward down and regain control of that mid side. Can we gonna get the pin onto Mineral? A little bit of damage from Privative. And the sustain out of the hell. Dash in onto Ocean. Now he's stuck in the middle of it. OZ gonna go into the water. Still chasing down Privative, who's got no defenses left available, guys. The heal block on one side, diving in with the ultimate out of one. Uzi finds Oceans. They all dive into the back, get the shield for themselves. But Chronic is now here. 3-man Eagles rally and takes down Nayu. Uzi now under half health. Mineral at half. They have to go on full retreat against Chronic as they took way too much poke from the solo laner. A little late to the rotation, but not late to the full-time party. Able to get one good hit with the bludgeon, but that will be the end.
So close there to being able to get even more kills. Could you imagine if Chronic had actually been there when Priv was alive? I mean, that would have been the fight to see, really, because I don't even think Priv would have died, and Oceans did his best to be able to get Priv out safely there. It was a very nice wall separating the mid laner from the enemy team, but even still, Hell just did not have a chance in the world to run away because the solo laner just did not come through soon enough.
It's a little late on the rotation from Chronic. They were able to turn it around and at least get one kill out of that, almost grabbing themselves a second one. And they're going to have to be careful of Chronic come late game, especially of the hand-holding that we like to see about it. I mean, everybody stood in a giant circle, and what does Chronic love to do? Dive in with a big circular stun and say, hey, party's right here. So, I mean, as the game goes on, they're going to have to be careful about how hard they group up in those little corridors.
Oh, but the... Oh my gosh, I mean, oh, I didn't even have time to catch that. He was just dead so fast.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a 2-level differential between the mid laners. I mean, Privative, despite falling there, still has a pretty substantial lead onto Nayu. I'm surprised that Privative's been able to hold such a lead. But yeah, like you said, welcome to Hell. Going to be getting that Doom Orb online very shortly, and that'll give a lot of extra MP5 and movement speed over to Priv when they can knock down the minions.
Yeah, Hell just does so much damage in the early game, and for sure so does Ra, but Hell has more buttons to do it with. They got more solid damage, and you really don't have to aim it as much. You've got a big circle around you and then a line with an explosion at the end, so being able to just have all that nice, easy poke, especially when it's set up so cleanly like Oceans did there. I mean, he's using that blink super well. We've seen 2 kills off of this blink from the Amir, and if you can keep doing that, then that is such a great look.
Kiri blinking right past the lurking in the waters will get him out. He managed to steal the 2 small minions of the back camp, but not able to get the entire thing. I imagine he thought that he had the damage for it, but probably didn't realize until it was already too late. Now it's going to be a back camp invade. On the flip side, Funcrush will try to take that one away. Maybe look to get Kiri, but he's got the turtle. Get himself out for the time. Funcrush will manage to trade it out and steal the back camp back away from him. Chronic has that blue buff. Ozzy trying to zone him away from who knows what. The Soul Enders will continue their same old slap box as the Hunters will fight over this purple buff. Renjaro rotating in a level up onto Benny.
Yeah, we haven't seen that recently, but Renjaro's got to be careful. He is getting revealed there by the ward, and so therefore he's going to be in a little bit of danger, but that would only be the truth if Oceans and Priv weren't making their way downtown, and that's exactly what they did. They moved fast enough for them to be able to get that purple, and now Mineral's stuck. Might
be able to pick up one, but he's got the dash to get out of the cripple field. Snipe from Nayu hits Renjaro. That forces him away, and Funcrush has to jump out because he takes too much damage. Purification beads thrown to Niflheim by Benny Q, able to pick up Oceans and maybe grab Kirby on the back end as he lands down. Turtle is just too slow. Benny Q picks up the double kill, and everyone from Slaughter Squadron make it out alive. In fact, they might be able to turn and try and grab some more. Uzi looking for a blink pop, looking for something off onto a Mineral, able to get the blink stun onto Chronic and force out the Eagles rally.
Yeah, they've used all their ultimates here. I don't see any way that they're actually going to be able to take down Chronic here, but what I could see is a nice little invade to this blue buff, and you can already see them posturing for it, and the blinks being called out as well, as Uzi is doing his best to zone away Chronic, but a nice shoot to the side almost netted him the blue, but unfortunately just a little late there with the lash to be able to get that last hit.
Uzi gets chunked a little bit there by Primitive. Level 12 on the Hell. Has that Doom Orb online. On the flip side, you see Nay's gone for a Divine Ruin compared to it. And, I mean, they're going to need it. Hell is one of those gods where even if you build every anti-heal item in the game, it's still tough, but you have to get anti-heal going up against this god.
And it's so easy for Ra to apply it too, because he can throw down this huge field of healing and damage that will be able to get it done, and or he hits you from afar with the beam, and or if you're walking at him, he gets to be able to apply it with the blind. So many ways for Neu to be able to do that, and kind of the same deal for Priv on the Hell himself. I mean, there's still two sources of healing coming out between Mineral and Neu on the other side, not to mention Baka has got the 8 minions as well.
Two-man freeze. We'll snipe for Neu onto Oceans, but Oceans will be able to heal some of that up thanks to the help of Privative on the Hell. Gets the wall and a two-man freeze, but nothing from it. They lose out on those Oracle Harpies. Kirmi looking to dive onto Mineral, but he gets hit by the knock-up and the slow afterwards, so instead they'll just take a purple buff for their troubles.
I mean, they've been doing a great job so far of invading, because they've been on this purple, it seems like every single time. The invades have been on point from Hugs and Kisses, and they slowly but surely are putting themselves in a great spot to be able to continue to push their very slight lead to something more substantial.
Mineral lurking around, seeing if he can find anything, but going up shy for the moment. Back to the dual lane. Our dual lane squads will go. Benny and Mineral, Oceans, and Renjaru. Renjaru's picked up a 2-level lead over his opposition. It's kind of, these carries are starting to fall a little bit behind. Fun Crush has the lead over Kirmi. I don't know if that's enough to supplement this Hell and this Cupid with such a lead.
Yeah, I've got to say, the Hell is definitely the one I'm keeping my eyes on here, because a Hell with a lead is absolutely terrifying. And as he's doing his best here to try and steal away, but now he might be in trouble as 3 members are coming straight for the Croc.
We're going to get a little bit of movement speed thanks to Hell. A great pin by Kirmi, and the Eagles rally, followed by the damage out of Privative will be enough to close the gap and seal the deal. Gold Fury started up on the left-hand side, and that's going to be a quick turnaround to get the Gold Fury. When you rotate 3 to the other side, you get 1. They're going to grab the Pyromancer for themselves. They'll trade out objective for objective. A little in favor of Slaughter Squadron as far as the gold difference onto it goes. The Hugs and Kisses with a big pick onto the solo lane.
I mean, you say that, right? But check out all the invading that Kirmi is doing right now. And unfortunately for Fun Crush, he's coming back from base noticing, my back camps aren't gone. And little does he know that blue buff is also going to be gone as well. So Kirmi is slowly but surely climbing his way back from this deficit. And sooner versus later, I'd expect this Erlang Shen to actually get back to even.
Won't take very long if he keeps getting good picks like that. Good setup for his team. And that's kind of the benefit we've seen of this Erlang Shen. Yeah, he has a lot of in-hand damage through the use of his first ability, that spot weakness, but also those long-range pin setups are so pivotal for him in these team fights. Able to help Chronic set up for an Eagles rally, able to help set up Privative for his damage. So come late game, I mean, Kirmi once again could become a huge problem for them if they don't start dealing with him soon.
I mean, they have been dealing with him moderately well, right? They did put him behind 2 levels, and slowly but surely he's been able to climb his way back up. And it's been working out so well for them so far, and especially because he's had the assistance of Privative, who is still holding this 2-level lead with pride. And I mean, with this lead, this Hell is going to start to do a ton of damage. The anti-heal is online, and that works against so many members of Slaughter Squadron. It's going to be very hard to deal with her. But of course, there are tools that Slaughter Squadron have. They just need to start using them.
Ults in for Fun Crush and Mineral trying to find something, but they come up empty-handed. Renjaru and Kirmi fought it out, and they make their way back into the depths of their jungle. Oceans rotating in from the mid lane, able to get a freeze onto 1, and that's enough to get the beads out of Fun Crush. Very important relic down for them. Oceans might be able to find a good wall thanks to the slow from Privative. The beam, however, from Neu does so much damage. Oceans trying to get a body block onto this Raw, but he's taking half of his health field to love onto Fun Crush. He gets taunted right back into a freeze out of the support. Oceans helps the lead, grab down 1. Fun Crush will fall, and Mineral with no ult is too late to rotate back in to save his team.
No pun intended here, but Ocean stayed so cool there under all of that pressure. He was taking so much damage, but he knew that right around the bend was a level 16 Cupid there to drop the fields and save the day. So what a great job there by Oceans to even push for that fight in the first place. I thought, oh my god, man, Ocean's just kind of walking into this one. He's just going to take it on the back end, but instead, the rest of the squad was there to really bring him up. But Kirmi has got to be a little bit careful here because the damage from Benny is really good.
No pun intended to me. You were waiting to use that pun, and I respect it because we both know that we love throwing puns here. We don't like hearing them, but we love throwing those puns out here. Never no pun intended to me. You thought about it. Because you knew it was a pun, you'd say, okay, now I can't say it's a pun.
No, but I don't want to be that person, right? I don't want to be the person that's using the puns. I just wanted to say that because it was true. No, I can't drop down to that level. You want me to stoop and use puns in a cast?
That level? Are you trying to say something, Lermy? Are you trying to say something to me, Lermy?
I mean, are we not speaking now?
Fair enough.
Technically saying something to you.
Well, fair enough onto that one. Puns aside, Fun Crush, level 15 now on the Bakasura. Keeping pace and keeping momentum over Kirimi, important for them, but so far we haven't really seen the pop-off yet on this Bakasura. Every time he's run into Oceans has been getting those purification beads from him. It's got to be a little bit more careful as he treads through this jungle.
Yeah, he really just needs to get some kind of big damage spike online. You'd think that would be coming with the Chinsai, but honestly, I'm expecting him to go for Atalanta's bow here because that's really good. What's going to be turning this Bakasura into a fighting machine, because even if he doesn't get a kill, if he can contribute to an assist, he's going to be zooming and zipping through these team fights to be able to continue to chase someone down. The only other thing that I kind of would have expected him to go for would be maybe a Toxic Blade, because of course anti-heal kind of adoy here. Like, why wouldn't you pick up the anti-heal? But I guess he assumes that everybody else has got it covered, and realistically they don't. There's only a Divine Ruin on the board for one singular member at this point, and they honestly need a lot more.
Yeah, they against the Hell, you need more. They've got a fully upgraded Curse Donk from Minerals, which will help in the long run, but they're still going to need a little bit more from that one, because they pop a Curse Donk, and what they have to do is just instantly walk away from it. Okay, well, now the Relic is down, wait it out, 8-10 seconds, then reinitiate the fight. Hells love waiting around for the fight, so we need to see a little bit more anti-heal, something to deal with them immediately, something where you can force the fight and keep that fight going, as opposed to just kind of allowing them to walk away. Primal Fury started up by Hugs and Kisses, but not going to commit to it because of the rotation from Slaughter Squadron.
They honestly are going to try to push this objective, I feel. They've got so much sustain, right? Between Hell and Cupid, those two combined. My goodness, your front line is just not going to be taking any damage on top of that objective. But the poke right now from BennyQ is pretty solid, and Mineral actually is getting slightly isolated out, but he's not going to have a problem. He's going to flap his wings on back over to BennyQ, but here comes the rotation from everybody else, slowly but surely, and meanwhile the wraparound is coming through.
They're gonna have a big fight coming through here towards this Gold Fury. They're chasing Fun Crush. They're chasing Uzi, who's forced back under the tier 2 tower. It's the leap out of Fun Crush for the time, but Primitive gonna get aggressed on by Mineral. They don't be able to get out for the time being. Pluck onto Oceans, puts him in a little bit of a bad spot there. Beam from Nayu hits 2, it looked like, in the back. But Primitive gonna keep it sustained through. Ultimate out of Oceans and out of Rinjaru will help zone the rest of the team. Curse Donk pops through. Primitive uses the feeds just to get away from it, and that isolates Oceans, left all alone. Meanwhile, Koronic was dealing with Fun Crush the entire time, and that's gonna keep them from immediately going on to the Fury. Primitive, however, on this Hell has been keeping the rest of the team sustained up. Rinjaru's back almost to full health. That's gonna make it for a very healthy 4v4 potential into this mid lane. Pluck on a Chronic, doesn't have that Eagle's Rally available. Pluck back into the fray, but Primitive will keep him alive.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you say that they're gonna go for the 4-on-4 there, but instead it really was just a 1v4 where Chronic was taking a lot of damage, but thanks to Rinjaru and Priv, they're able to at least heal him up most of the way. He's there from Kermie to keep himself alive, but the fight continues and the trade is about to happen.
Z gets a 1-for-1. Nayu gets a big beam, and that makes it a 2-for-1 for Slaughter Squadron. Great turnaround ult from the mid laner out of SS, and they'll take down one. Primal Fury might be a little risky here. Rinjaru's ult is back up. Fun Crush dives into the back line. Fields of Love is available. He'll drop it down onto Mineral. That'll lock him in with the Heart Bomb, but it's not going to be enough damage to take him down. Mineral able to dash back to his team. Nayu going to heal himself and Mineral back up using that Solar's Blessing. Fun Crush again diving to the back, has that ultimate, but he's going to get frozen out immediately. No beads available for himself. The wall keeps 2 of them on the wrong side. Oceans has to run, but Privative, low on mana, only going to have enough damage just to keep them off for now.
Yeah, that was the thought process, right? The fact that Priv had no mana, Fun Crush says, okay, I got Regurgitate, we're going in right now. And so that was the call, right? He jumps in, but not everyone is entirely in range to help out. And if one more person had been there to even put a smidgen more damage onto Priv, he was falling down. And honestly, that could have just been the Gold Fury right then and there. But everybody's forced to back out now and reset.
Check out that 4th item on Privative, going for very early defense. Normally it'd be something like a Breastplate of Valor, but instead going for the Mantle of Discord so early. I mean, why Mantle over any other defense right now?
Honestly, that's a really good question. I think the idea there is that they're trying to stun off someone who's going to be on top of them, because you're expecting this Bakasura to kind of just sit on you if you're an immobile character. But by having this Mantle of Discord, if you get within that range where it'll pop, well, now this Bakasura is going to be stunned off you for a second, so by all means, that's going to help him get out alive. And the same could be said of the Horus or the Sobek or really anyone who's going to be trying to dive Priv in these fights.
Priv sits at 3-1 so far onto the Hell. 7,000 healing. Fun Crush leaps away. Oceans gets a great wall to hold Fun Crush in. Ult out of support might just be enough to save his life. Chronic gets stunned out of ways. They can't get the hammer down, but they still manage to pick up the jungler. After being forced to run away, Eagles rally into the backfield of love on Uzi, but that's not going to be enough to save his life. Priv finds another kill by throwing out that Dark Stance 1, getting the big damage off. Now Hugs and Kisses with a 2-kill advantage and 2,000 gold make their way towards the Primal Fury as all 5 are still upstanding. Meanwhile, the 3 of Slaughter Squadron head towards the Pyromancer.
And it looks like the rotation is going to be coming through a little bit early from Oceans to try and slow him down, but I mean, this is Benny and Neu on that thing. It's going to go down real quickly, but you can already see the very aggressive pathing coming out from Oceans. Blink in, very nice beats, but
that might have been the craziest wall placement they could have had. Benny actually wasn't even able to teleport at first. The snipe not going to be quite enough for it. But we got to talk about that wall spot by Oceans blocking off the crystal so that way Benny couldn't dash away from him.
All right. Okay, I don't hate Ymir anymore.
Ymir Heimdall counter confirmed.
I mean, he needs something, right? Heimdall is pretty good, but at the same time, man, Oceans is the man for that play, and you can see right here, look at that wall, dude! Oh my god, it's so good!
Forces him to use the ult to get away. Now, he still was able to teleport back to that crystal, fortunately for him, but unfortunately unable to get away from the damage that ensued afterwards. I mean, Oceans is kind of nutty. Remember, we've talked about him. He's been SPL caliber before. That was back when he was a hunter. Has since transitioned to mid and now into support. So he's made his way around the map a little bit as far as his roles go. And kind of showing his prowess on that Ymir. Might be looking for Uzi now. He gets hit by the turtle and the lurking at the waters. I mean, Kiri can just keep this chase going, waiting for the pin afterward. But not going to opt for it. Instead, Prune's just going to throw a little bit of poke and push them away from fire.
Oh, but here comes the ultimate from Mineral, sending him and Fun Crush into 4. This might not have been the best play in the world, Mineral, but here comes the rest of the squad trying to back him up.
He's going to get the pull-up onto Oceans to throw him back. They're going to throw out the Curse Stomp onto them. In the back goes Chronic with the Eagles Rally, looking for something. Big wall out of Ocean. Zones 2. Fields of Lava snipe onto 3 out of Nate, who's been getting some big beams. Brings the Heart Bomb back to the mid laner. Luckily for him, it wasn't a stun, and it was just enough to keep him alive, but not for Uzi. He loses his life, he loses his tower, and he may be losing even more. 3 healthy players from Slaughter Squadron, but no frontline means they're going to lose this tier 2 tower as well.
No, Mineral almost died there to the lazy back, but thankfully the rest of his squad is here. But at that same time, that means the support is still unhealthy coming into this next fight, and they actually pushed up onto Benny Q and got him thanks to the Light Stance 1 through the wall from the Hell. And Privative, man, he has not been popping off for these past couple of games, but this is impressive. This is redemption for this mid laner. He has been nuts this game.
Yeah, Privative kind of popping off right now. 7-1 on the Hell. If we can see we see 22,000 damage, but if we can see what the healing has been like out of this mid laner, despite all the anti-heals, 16,000 healing from the mid laner. Chronic might be losing their life here for staying a little too long. They do have the Eagles rally. Fun Crush still chasing, but Chronic's leading him right into the clutches of Cure Me, and that'll make sure that they get out. But 16,000 healing, I mean, that essentially negates an entire player from Slaughter Squadron's damage chart.
Yeah, and I mean, you've got to just consider that, okay, he's about to hit 17k, but combined 17k with the 5k coming from the Q. But I mean, that's just insane amounts of healing at this point. And the fact that Mollusk, or Fun Crush rather, doesn't have a Toxic Blade, I mean, that's just insulting. Come on.
It's a little egregious at this point. Like, you can't be going against the Hell, trying to dive a Hell if you don't have anti-heal yourself. Fire Giant started up. Hugs and Kisses will get it. Ozzy dives into the back. Sniping a Nayu only hits Oceans. And Mineral is forced to dive down in towards the back line. But again, we talked about it. You got to have more anti-heal to go against this Hell. If you have, look at the opposite side. They have a Toxic Blade, a Divine Ruin to go up against just a Raw, and a Toxic Blade out of Renjaru, by the way. They have 3 forms of anti-heal for a Raw. You're going to need double that for a Hell.
I mean, it's absolutely crazy to think that they just did not put it in the build. And I mean, there's no reason that Fun Crush could not have gotten Toxic Blade over this Hastened Katana. There really is no reason. You've already got the Atalantas that will give you a very close to haste passive on top of the movement speed from everything else that Bakasura has in his kit, plus the speed buff. Yada, 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 yada. You know, there's no reason not to have more anti-heal, and there also is no excuse right now for Benny Q either. I mean, what's he going into here? Probably the Chintai? I mean, that's important for sure, but replace that Ichabod there, and he's got a Toxic Blade.
And not even just that, Ozzy has not gone for a Contagion or a Pestilence himself, so lacking a little bit of tankiness and lacking that anti-heal, and still not going for it. Going for a Robe in his 6th slot there. I mean, this is a massive oversight. Their mindset here is, yeah, 40% from Divine Ruin is enough. I mean, there's the 6th item Toxic Blade out of Fun Crush. I think it's a little bit late, but I guess their mindset is, we got Sickening Strike on Sobek. We've got a Curse Donk on our support. Surely that's enough anti-heal.
Yeah,
no?
Sickening Strike is what, 40%, and that's only if you hit it and the buff doesn't or rather debuff doesn't last for that long, right? And hell, with all this cooldown, it's gonna be able to just spam abilities anyway, and you know, you're not hitting every single member with the Sickening. I mean, I could go on forever about this, but we've made our point already. There have been mistakes made. They still can be corrected, of course. This game is not over. But by all means, it should not have gotten to this point.
Well, the next big fight that's going to break out is going to be at these Phoenixes. Now that they've got this extra bit of anti-heal online, is this enough to help them fight against this siege?
I mean, I sure hope so. They certainly do have a very strong siege defense, especially because Neu can drop this heal on the squad and give them all a bunch of bonus power and protections. And when you're sitting in one spot, I mean, it's pretty good to be able to just do that for a long period of time. And Benny, of course, can be very safe as well, putting down the teleports behind him to even just confuse the enemy. They don't know which one he's going to go to. And of course, as spectators, we certainly do, but by all means, he's at least being a little bit confusing with it, trying to switch up the enemy here as Oceans finally is ready to go in.
He's going to get hit by a snipe as well as 2 other players. Fields of Love drops down. That forces the beads and the leap out of Fun Crush. Ult out of Benny Q is going to leave one stuck in the middle on landing. It's going to be Oceans, but he turns around and gets a kill on the Fun Crush. Fuzzy gets a pluck, and Benny picks up Oceans. That's 2 for 1 down. Privative and Chronic are the only 2 left on this side of the map, but the right side got pushed up so far. Kirby going for a back door. It stopped just shy, and the right side Phoenix falls, but the rest of them have to retreat left side. Kirby almost makes an insane play, but luckily for Slaughter Squadron, they're able to sniff it out just in time.
That was so close to being insane from Kirmi. He nearly makes the hero play right. Everyone's distracted on that left-hand side, but here you can see he's slipping through the cracks, and that is a huge fire minion wave he was paired up with, and you can see how much health that Titan is left with, and it's not going to be healing until that Phoenix comes back up, and it's got a long time left on that respawn, so now the window is open for Hugs and Kisses. They could choose to go for another Phoenix, or they could really just run it down mid. And honestly, it might work.
He really just walked in there and started slamming that Titan, didn't he? Now it's already down under a quarter health, and they have to be even more careful on these defenses. I'm not sure they can maybe even attempt to try and stop this Fire Giant. It's going to be set to spawn here about 35 seconds. That's going to be kind of their last leg to defend on, because if Kimi was able to do that much just on his own, all it's going to take is the full team of Hugs and Kisses to walk through and tap that Titan to take it down.
In all honesty, I think they have to fight the Fire Giant here, because if they don't, then that's a guaranteed loss. I just don't see any way that Hugs and Kisses can mess up when the Titan is under half health. It's barely above a third health at this point, and they've got the healing from this hell on their side, and of course, one slippery person getting into that Titan room with one singular minion wave, and that's the game.
You can see Slaughter Squadron have made that adjustment. Since it is the right side Phoenix, it's much easier to defend in these Fire Giant skirmishes. Fire Giant has respawned Enhanced Fire Giant this time around, but they're keeping that minion wave pushed up. A few people looking like they're backing, or at least just Fun Crush will take his back to the base. Hasn't been able to sell his boots just yet for his 6th item. It might not be looking for it at the moment. All 5 from Hugs and Kisses pushing up towards the Enhanced Fire Giant. They're going to start it up.
All ultimates available at this point, so we could see a fight engage, especially coming up, but check out how much it's getting chunked. Mineral tries to steal it away, but it's going to be secured.
Big beam out of Nayu takes them down, but unfortunately it's not quite enough damage. Kirby finds Mineral. Fun Crush trying to close that gap on Renjaro. He'll trade it out 1-for-1 onto it, but the rest of the team is falling down. Primitive able to get a big beads and able to get out of the pluck. Benny Q gets turned on, and Oceans is able to take him down with the ice carpet. Now Uzi stuck in the middle, the only one left alive. Blink from Oceans, and another big kill out of Primitive. 2 in the fight. Takes down all 5 from Slaughter Squadron, and that is surely set to be the game. With right side Phoenix down, they're just gonna walk right through that mid lane and take game 3. Hugs and Kisses will extend themselves to a 2-2 standings in the NASCC and hold their chances that much better for a moment to go into the top 3.
Did game 1 even happen? I mean, what happened to the Slaughter Squadron we saw back then? I mean, not to diminish the absolutely insane performance we just saw from Hugs and Kisses, but the way that game 1 went, I mean, this is huge for Hugs and Kisses to have gotten this dub after taking such a demoralizing loss.
I mean, you would have thought with how Slaughter Squadron performed in game 1, that was going to be a quick 2-0 set for them. I mean, a 26 or so minute game number 1 with as commanding as it was. I mean, I was chalking it up 2-0, move on to the next one. We're going to be done here. But no, they extend this one. Hugs and Kisses able to pull out a gruesome game 2 and a very slow burn game 3 in order to take the set 2-1 over Slaughter Squadron.
The highlight this game absolutely has to be Primitive. I mean, insane performance on the Hell. We really don't get to see this god very often, and the reason mostly is that people really need to be on point to play this character well, and that's exactly what Primitive did. I mean, he came out swinging with the healing, with the damage. I mean, at the top of the charts, really, other than Nayu, who also had a phenomenal performance, but unfortunately on the losing end of things. But my goodness, it just was not enough respect there from Slaughter Squadron onto this Hell. Not enough anti-heal, not the best fight up into it. And unfortunately, that is a big reason why they weren't able to take this game 3.
Yeah, unfortunately for Slaughter Squadron, they do fall down to a 1-3 record, pretty much effectively negating them from making any kind of qualifications into the next phase. And speaking of, because that was our only set for the night, we won't have another one for you, but we do have the updated results from all the matches played. We saw the 2-0 from Hugs and Kisses over Gauntlet Tahiti for the high-res set this morning earlier on before SPL, with Hugs and Kisses taking down Slaughter Squadron. That extends them to a 2-2 for their standings, putting them in the 4th seed. Winter Dogs fell to Get a Grip 1-2 as well. That's a big match to talk about, because that's Aqua and Andy's team, and they've kind of been on the up and rising this entire phase. So they'll drop down to a 3-1 and extend Get a Grip into that 3-1 as well. Froggy also takes down Gauntlet Tahiti 2-0, and that puts Froggy at a 3-1 record. So Larby, we have a 3-way tie for first seed right now between Winter Dogs, Froggy, and Get a Grip. Meanwhile, like I said, Hugs and Kisses 2-2, Slaughter Squadron 1-3, and Gone to Tahiti, they've really been suffering after losing Mollusk as their jungler. They're down at 0-4 right now.
Super unfortunate for them, but man, I just cannot wait for next week's matches. I mean, this is it, right? The last week of the phase. And as you said, three-way tie for first. There has to be someone on top, right? There's no way we end this phase with a tie. So I'm so excited to see who it's going to be. And honestly, everyone else should be as well.
Yeah, next week is going to be the one to watch. We'll get to see who moves on into the qualifiers towards the world stage soon. Very, very soon. We'll have more details for that, hopefully for you guys next week. But with a three-way tie-up into the top, and Hugs and Kisses have that potential with the 3-2, we could be seeing a lot of shakeups for the standings next time around. But that's it. And that's all we got for you here at the NASCC this week. J-Mac and Lermy on the mic, Jithens on the camera. We'll see you all guys next week.